number 10627, otherwise known as the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013, for the purpose of formulating and recommending policy and legislative interventions for its effective enforcement. So this is actually sort of in line with our discussion last week on mental health, and we want to continue the discussion on mental health and link it with school violence, learner rights, as well as the school environment in our country. And before I go into the discussion, let me just show a few slides just to set the tone. And these slides are very important because these are based on empirical studies from different international large-scale assessment organizations and also international multilateral organizations. Let me start off with a slide from the WHO. If you can see the slide from WHO, and this is actually quite revealing. 40.6% of our children aged 13 to 17 experience some form of bullying in our schools. Almost tie between boys and girls. So 4 out of 10 students in our schools experience some form of bullying. And in 2018, another study by the what we call the CPLM, and this is across Southeast Asian nation. And if you can see the slide on bullying, almost 63% of our grade 5 learners, these are 10-year-olds, experience bullying. The highest among the Southeast Asian nation who participated in the CPLM. And another slide, another report from the PISA. This is the famous PISA that came out in 2018, in which they also gauged learner experience in school. There. 40% of our students are frequently bullied. That's consistent with the findings of the WHO. These are learners age 15. But if you look at the number of students who experience any type of bullying, meaning cyberbullying, verbal bullying, physical, as high as 65% of our kids experience some form of bullying. So it's consistent consistent with the WHO number and consistent with the CPLM number. And this is quite worrisome and concerning because 6 out of 10 students in our schools experience some form of bullying. And if you go to that report, the PISA report among countries, we are number 1, in terms of bullying prevalence. In fact, this report medyo contradictory because when it comes to reading, math, and science, we're second to the last. But when it comes to bullying, we're number 1 across 70 plus countries. So nakakabahala ho na among many countries, in fact, some of the countries are also developing nations, but we have the highest in terms of bullying. Now, if we relate this to learner outcomes, and let me just show a slide from CPLM. Just look at the first bar, the bullying. Yung round is the scores for reading, math, and writing. The square is the scores for reading, math, and writing. The square is also the experience of a student in terms of bullying. The square is being bullied once a month. The circle is never or hardly ever bullied. And you can see the grade disparity. Those who are being bullied once a month, their scores are lower, below 300. Those who are never bullied scored better, above 300. So we can see that bullying affects learner outcomes and learner performance. There's a direct correlation between how our students perform, how our students learn, in relation to bullying. And I'll show you another slide. No, and this is from the TIMSS large-scale examination, and you can see here very clearly the math scores of our students go down as they experience being bullied in school. So for math, those who are never bullied scored 351 points. Those who are bullied weekly, their scores dipped to 269. So that's a difference of about 82 points. In terms of science, those who were never bullied scored 318, and those who were bullied scored far below, 214. That's a difference of about 104 points. So we can see again, this is another study, not related to PISA, but we can see that it's consistent that if a student experience frequent bullying, the scores go down, especially with fundamental and foundational subjects such as math and science. So there's a direct correlation between being bullied and not being bullied. No? So my point of the matter here is bullying is an education problem. No? And if we want to address learner performance and improve learner outcomes, we also need to make sure that the school environment is safe, conducive, and the school environment projects confidence for our students. And bullying creates an environment of fear among our students. We can experience a lot of dropouts. Some students are not comfortable going to school and they don't concentrate. And hence, we see a lot of low scores from different large-scale examination. So we're here to improve learner outcomes. We're here to improve our education system. And one of the things that we need to address to improve our education system is the issue of bullying in our schools. No? And that's why we filed this resolution to bring this to fore and to bring this to light, and also tap into the recommendations of experts. Throughout the weekend, I was reading some materials on bullying, and bullying has become an international issue. No? Conferences in Europe, conferences held, organized by UNESCO, they gathered experts and scientists solely to study the root causes of bullying and hopefully prevent bullying from happening. So it's an international phenomenon that we need to study and address here in our country. So with that, that's why we filed this resolution, and we hope that we can get recommendations from experts so that we can also implement that in our system. We also want to see the law. No, the law is 2013, so 10 years ago. We want to also know whether the law is effective. The law is needs updating. Definitely during those times, our legislators responded to the issue of bullying by coming up with a law. But it's time to review whether the law is effective or not, and let's see, if we need to update it. So with that, we'll turn over the microphone to our esteemed colleague, Senator Padilla, for his opening remarks.
Maraming salamat po, mahal na tagapangulo, Ginoong Einstein, Senador Win Gatchalian. Ako po ay nagpunta dito at ako po'y sabik na makapakinig sapagkat tunay po ang inyong sinabi na ito pong bullying ay napakalaking suliranin po ito dahil ako po mismo ay produkto ng kung bakit ako nagkaroon ng tour of the Philippines sa mga paaralan. Magmula ho Maynila, napunta ako ng Baguio dahil ako po ay talagang nakaranas ng bullying. At hindi ko naman po sinasabi na para po sa akin, sa opinion ko, mahal na tagapangulo, ito po ay parang parte na ito ng ating pamumuhay araw-araw, lalong-lalo na sa isang estudyante. Ang hindi lang po ako parang hindi ko na matanggap ay para sa bullying nung panahon namin, sa bullying ngayon, hindi na po asaran kasi dati asaran lang, talo, pikon. Ngayon hindi masyado ng personal at palagay ko hanggang online, wala nang pahinga. Kasi noon, asaran lang sa eskwela, pag uwi mo, masaya ka na. Nasa bahay ka na, kasama mo na yung pag-recess, kasama mo na yung grupo mo, okay ka Pero ngayon hindi. Halos 24 oras ikaw ay nabubuli. Lalo na yung mga kabataan ho ngayon, meron kaming study na almost 95% ng mga kabataan ngayon meron ng smartphone. Tuloy-tuloy ang bullying. So ako po ay sumusuporta sa ating pong mahal na tagapangulo na yung batas noong 2013 mukhang hindi na po applicable ngayon. Kaya po ako ay nandirito, mahal na tagapangulo, upang makinig po sa mga eksperto. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Senator Padilla. Maybe later on you can share with us your experience as a child when you experienced bullying, so we can also understand how we can approach this with care and love. I think that is also a very important facet in addressing bullying in our country. So let's go on into the discussion, and we'll start first with statistics, with the numbers. It's important to understand the gravity of this issue. No less than from the Department of Education, who's supposed to gather information and data. All of these statistics that I showed you are from the large-scale international examination that we undertook in the past, and now we want to see actual numbers being reported. And then we segue into what the department has been doing to address bullying, and also its analysis on RA 10627. Kung kailangan po ito i-update or i-improve para maging mas effective ang implementation ng anti-bullying in our country. So with that, we turn over the floor to ASEC Galban, and just to give us some basic stats to start off, so that we lay down the groundwork.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Department of Education has been very supportive of the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013, and as such has issued subsequent memoranda regarding the repertorial systems. As such, we have also created several units within the department, from the Child Protection Unit to the Child Rights and Education Desk, just very recently merged together as the Learner Rights and Protection Office. We've even launched the Learners Telesafe Contact Center last November 24 to increase our capacity to gather reports about bullying. As such, we have been able to gather subsequent reports. The data that I will be sharing are based on the collected numbers by CREED, LRPO, and of course the CPU over the past few years. So in terms of the total number of cases of bullying per school year, I shall go from 2013 up to the latest data that we have in 2020. So this is school year 2019 to 2020. So upon the passing of the bill, the base number was 1,309. The following year, 2014 to 2015, it's 5,624. A significant jump, possibly attributed to the now increased reporting system about bullying. The following year, 2015 to 2016, 7,221. In 2016 to 2017, 8,750. In 2017 to 2018, it became 1,586. Sorry, 15,866. In 2018 to 2019, the highest recorded was 21,521. In 2019 to 2020, our latest data, the number dropped to 11,637, again, possibly attributed to the shift from face-to-face to online learning and possible underreporting as well with relation to the pandemic. And then if we're going to aggregate the data that we were able to collect over the past 7 years, if we're going to look at the different categories, we have here as listed physical, social, gender-based, cyberbullying, and retaliation. So I'll go through each one so that we can look at the breakdown. For physical bullying over the past 7 years, the total percentage in terms of all the bullying experienced was roughly 56.79%. For social bullying, it was 25.43%. Gender-based bullying or gender-biased bullying, 5.92%. Cyberbullying at 6.03%, and retaliation-related bullying, 5.83%. In terms of the challenges when it comes to the reporting requirements, we have highlighted here that all schools shall inform the respective schools division superintendents in writing about the anti-bullying policies formulated. And all of them are intended to be collected and processed by the schools division superintendent. As of to date, there's no similar monitoring function over private schools. In terms of our capacity to intervene, DepEd can only meet sanctions over private schools, particularly on the suspension of permit to operate. Particularly those airing private schools shall likewise suffer the penalty of suspension of their permit to operate. So these are just some of the challenges that we have. To provide a little bit more context and for the enrichment of our discussion, I shall provide a bit of a breakdown over the past 3 years that may be of note in aid of legislation. I've mentioned already the breakdown over the aggregated period of 7 years. I'll try to go to a more recent subset from 2017 to 2020. And I'll break it down based on the category of bullying. From 2017 to 2018, physical bullying accounted for 56.2% of all bullying cases. This increased in 2018 to 2019 to 58.68%, and in 2019 to 2020, 57%. So it plays within that range, 56 to 58.68. In terms of social bullying, in 2017 to 2018, it was 27.65, dropping to 23.56% the following year, and dropping further to 21.93%, the social bullying. Gender-based bullying in 2017 to 2018 was 5.55%, and increasing even more to 8.94% in 2019 to 2020. Again, we continue to validate the data and we hope to provide more context to the Senate committee. In terms of cyberbullying, in 2017 to 2018, it was 3.58%. 2018 to 2019, 5.66%, and 2019 to 2020, 7.30%. And lastly, in terms of retaliation, 17 to 18, school years 2017 to 2018, 6.99%, dropping to 6.27% from 2018 to 2019, and finally 4.81% from 2019 to 2020. Again, in the context of possible underreporting or shifting in reportorials during the onset of the pandemic. But if we will look at the data in terms of face value, relative increase in terms of gender-based and cyberbullying, according to our data. So we hope to furnish the committee with additional information with reference to the status of bullying in schools. Thank you, Ron.
Sir, let's break it down again, no, one by one. Your data is until 2019, tama?
2019 to 2020, school year 2019 to 2020, Ron.
2019 to 2020. Let's just take at the last 3 years. Tama ba? For school year 2017-2018, it's 15,866. Tama?
15,866, yes, sir.
Okay. And then 2018-2019 is 21,521.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But in 2019-2020 school year, it's 11,637.
Yes, sir.
All right. So these are the actual reported. How is this gathered? Reported through a hotline? And,
They're reported to our schools division superintendents, gathered through our learner information systems, and aggregated and submitted to the central office for consolidation.
okay. And I read in a and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a news article that came out. DepEd stated that 264,000 instances of physical bullying in schools has been documented in school year 2021-2022. Tama po ba?
I will confirm the data.
This is GMA News Online. Physical bullying, 260,000 cases. May ganun?
260,000, sir. I shall confirm with our...
Wala kang ganung na data?
This data set, sir, is from our Learner Rights and Protection Office. So we shall try to validate the data, sir.
Kasi ang layo eh. What you're saying is school year 2019-2020 11,000. But in the news report is 264,000 in one school year.
Mahal na pwede pong makasingit. Opo. Kasi po pagka physical bullying ang sinabi po natin, marami po dyan talaga hindi naman na i-report. Sa panahon ho namin, hindi naman namin yan nire-report sa principal o kung kanino man. Kasi magiging asaran pa yan eh. Sumbungero. Yan, yun naman ang pagpasok mo kinabukasan, yun naman ang mangyayari sa iyo. Daga. Yan ang mga kasabihan ho eh. Kaya po siguro, kaya magkaiba yung datos po ninyo sa news. Opo, pero ewan ko po sa panahon ngayon, sa panahon namin talaga, yung physical bullying, ang nangyayari po dyan, kaya nagkakaroon ng mga fraternity. Kasi doon ka pumupunta, doon ka sa brotherhood na yung pupunta para hindi ka mabully. Opo. Yung po sigurong physical bullying para po sa akin, kayang i-handle yun. Ang hindi po kayang i-handle yung mental. Kasi yun po ang mabigat. Para sa akin ngayon na yun po ang nararanasan ng ating mga kabataan, yung mental torture. Yung physical torture na, sorry po pero para sa akin nakatulong pa yun eh. Para ako'y maging hindi naman po sa usapin lamang ng humarap sa buhay, palagay ko mga 20%, 30% nakatulong pa yun. Pero yung mental na bullying, siguro po yun po ang dapat nating harapin. At kung ano man po siguro yung physical bullying, pagka umabot na sigurong gusto ko nang patayin, yun. Pero yung kadyut lang dyan, okay lang yun.
Thank you, Senator Padilla, for that. Can you reconcile the numbers between the report online and also...
The reported data, sir, may contain also reports from our regions and schools districts, but may have not yet been forwarded to the central office for aggregation, sir.
Yeah, but let's take itong 2019-2020 kasi this is pre-pandemic level eh. That 11,000 is nationwide?
Yes, sir. Although we have to confirm with our regions, sir, during the reporting period.
But you have to give me numbers now. Ano ba numbers?
As of the latest...
Kasi if you look at PISA, CPLM, we're talking about 40% to 60% eh. The 11,000 is nowhere, it's not even 1% of the total population, student population. So mayroong discrepancy. So I want to because if you look at your numbers, ang layo. So how do we? Oh, layo. So how do we continue if the numbers are different? Because what the large-scale examinations are saying, it's between 40 to 60%. So if you talk about converting that to student population, you're talking about 10 million to 12 million students, no? As opposed to 11,000. So how do we reconcile that?
Sir, we shall confer with our research team as well as our planning service to help reconcile the data and forward the response to the Senate as soon as possible.
Ang conclusion ko dyan, Senator Padilla, is maraming unreported eh.
Possibly, sir.
No, because in the large-scale examination, they tell the truth. No, because it's an examination. They know that the examination will go to an evaluator, and the examinations will probably go to people who are not connected to their schools. No? But of course, if they report, alam nila that will go straight to their schools. And there is fear. Baka malaman nung nagbubuli kung sino sila. No? So my analysis there is there's a huge issue of cases of being unreported. So, and that's a problem because if it's unreported, then how do we solve the problem? How do we help them? How do we extend the hand of assistance to our students if they're not reporting?
Mr. Chair, if I may, this relates to the measure that you have forwarded already regarding mental health and wellness in schools. There's also notable difficulty in being able to monitor the number of bullying cases, more so in the lack of registered guidance counselors that are available in the schools, as well as other health-related personnel, because all of the responsibility in terms of addressing such issues fall within the shoulders of our teachers that are already overloaded. And as such, we are very supportive of the measure to hopefully increase the manpower personnel. Mr. Chair.
Opo, mahal na tagapangulo, sumasang-ayon po ako doon sa guidance counselor. Dapat talaga po meron yun dahil ng panahon namin talaga yun ang takbuhan eh. Hindi naman yung principal eh. Pero alam niyo po ba mga sir, ang mismong paaralan, alam po nila kung sino talaga yung mga bully sa paaralan. Alam mismo ng teacher yun kung sino kasi hindi naman nalilihim yun eh. Siguro po magkaroon din po talaga ng inisyatibo yung mga teacher na harapin yung mga bully na yon. Opo, kasi hindi po nalilihim yon, popular sa paaralan yon kung sino doon yung mga asar. Opo. Salamat po, mahal na tagapangulo.
Thank you. We have to solve this reporting issue. And I understand that based on the current regulations of DepEd, you've created bodies per school, correct? And these bodies are supposed to be the venue for reporting of students. Tama?
Yes, sir. We have originally the Child Protection Unit and the CREED, Child Rights Education Desk, now consolidated under the Learners' Rights and Protection Office, which we hope to expand further in the different schools to help monitor these. As such, we have also launched the Learners Telesafe Contact Center, again, in its very early phase, but has already been receiving reports regarding bullying and other related concerns regarding learners' rights and as well as possible abuse cases.
Yeah.
Mahal na tagapangulo, tanong ko lang po, ito po bang mga in-establish ng DepEd ay open nito sa paaralan? Alam ng mga estudyante, alam ng lahat na meron pong ganito?
Yes, sir. These have been existing already, but we're trying to consolidate so that they all only have to go to one very clear hotline, one very clear website, Facebook page. So we're now, because of the notable increase in cyberbullying and gender-based bullying, it was strategic to also now have a reporting system that is direct, online, as well as through phone and via chat. Because now, as very much noted in public, cancel culture, bullying can be seen very easily online, and it's 24/7, sometimes outside the time of the classroom. So there needs to be a way for the learners to report them even directly towards our platforms. But again, this is a beginning initiative, but we hope to rapidly amplify its presence in the schools.
Opo. Mahal na tagapangulo, may kapartner po kayong law enforcement siyempre dito.
Yes, sir. All the cases that are received are subsequently referred to our legal team, and I believe they may be able to provide some context on the processing of the cases.
Opo, bukod po sa legal, meron po kayo katulad po sa PNP, sa NBI. Di ba po, pagka ganyan, kailangan meron din kaagad aksyon, i-verify. Di ba po, dapat ganun po yun, sir?
Yes po, sir. Good morning po. Based po sa ating child protection policy, meron pong annex doon. May referral mechanism pong nakalagay dito na tinutulungan. Actually, ang issue po dito is yung kaalaman din po na ating teachers. Because recently, I've been able to conduct a speaking engagement with some of our teachers in QC. Ang number one problem po talaga nila ay takot po silang umaksyon minsan at hindi rin po nila alam kung ano yung ginagawa nila or yung gagawin nila rather. So dun po sa ating DO40 series of 2012, meron pong annex doon na nalagay, meron pong flow chart po kung saan pong mga ahensya yung pupuntahan in case meron pong problema or incidents of bullying. Number one po dito yung Women and Child Desk po ng ating PNP and yung ating po mga local na social welfare offices sa ating mga municipalities. So yun po yung parang reporting mechanism po natin ngayon. It just needs more awareness lang po kasi I understand sa implementation po tayo medyo nagkakahirap.
Opo. Alam niyo
Yes
po
po.
kasi, mahal na tagapangulo, ito naman po sa aking karanasan lamang. Madalas po yung bullying kasi anak ng mga mayayaman, anak ng politiko, natatakot po banggain nung teacher. Opo, kaya siguro po, ang akin pong mungkahi, kung aamendahan po ng ating mahal na tagapangulo itong batas na ito, kailangan po siguro maliwanag natin doon na talagang babanggain natin itong mga to. Kasi yan po talaga ang bully. Wala po akong bulang-bulahan nito. Kung sino po talaga yung makukulit at mayayabang, yan po talagang may kapit. Opo. Salamat.
Tama ho kayo, Senator Padilla, no? Of course, yung mga may bully, may pinaggagalingan yan eh. No?
Anak ng mga general, yan eh.
Going back to the numbers, no? I'm very I'm not satisfied with the answers of DepEd because again, I showed numbers earlier, WHO 40%, CPLM 63%, PISA as high as 65%, but your numbers are only 0.04%. No? So it's either hindi sila nagre-report yung mga nabubuli or the reports are not being consolidated or analyzed. No? So I think there's a problem here also of the victims are not reporting. No? And that's a big problem if they're not reporting. So how do we help them? How do we detect?
Yes, sir, and that is very much acknowledged. That is the reason why we wanted to create new avenues for them to directly report. And that's why the Learner Telesafe Center or the contact center is intended to help gather reports directly from the learners, hoping that we'll be able to establish regional hubs for direct reporting to the regions and immediate action so that it would no longer necessitate another party to report the cases that they experience out of fear of the feedback in school, from their friends, from the community regarding the bullying case.
Yun, nadali mo, boss. Tagapangulo, yun po kasi ang nagiging problema. Pag nag-report, nagiging iskandalo. Papatawag yung magulang, ipapatawag yung magulang ng bully. siguro po ang pinakamainam niyan, magkaroon po kayo ng proseso na lihim din. Lihim din. Huwag yung normal na proseso, patatawag, paghaharapin doon, hindi po nakakatulong yun. Ang sa akin pong palagay, dapat po baguhin yung ganong klaseng proseso dahil sa katapusan po kasi ng araw, ang maiiwan uli doon sa paaralan yung estudyante. Yung magulang, yung principal, opisina niya, ang magkikita doon sa koridor. Minsan sa CR ang banatan dyan eh. Silang dalawa lang at yung grupo. Kaya sa akin po siguro magkaroon lang ng tamang proseso sa reporting. Opo, salamat po.
Thank you, thank you. Right now, what is the mechanism for students to report? What is the current process? So if I'm a student, I'm a victim, I want to report. Saan ako pupunta?
Sir, the immediate response would be to inform the teachers who coordinate with the child protection committees in schools. These are mandated as per DO 40 series of 2012, and at the same time, hopefully referred to an available guidance counselor. Unfortunately, the presence of such guidance counselor varies from area to area, and therefore sometimes it is limited to what capacity the teacher is able to do. But we are aware that the skill set of a teacher and a guidance counselor are vastly different. That's why they're separate professional institutions. So we defer to the current capacity of the school to address the situation at their level and do subsequent referrals to the child protection committees.
If the victim is not confident to talk to someone from their school, no? Sabi nga ni Senator Padilla, baka may connection or may malakas siya sa school. Is there any other venue for the victim to call or to report?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very recently, in last November 24, 2023, we established the Learner Telesafe Contact Center helpline. So this already allows the learner to directly report via call, via text message, via Facebook Messenger, via email and website. Reported cases, their seen experienced cases of bullying. So this allows us to have a direct hand in contrast of it being coursed through the teachers or through the school.
This Telesafe hotline is nationwide.
Yes, sir. The intent is to eventually establish hubs around the country so that it can be a bit faster and more localized.
Okay, have you already expanded this nationwide? People, for example, from Mindanao, can they call this hotline?
Yes, sir. I may be able to provide you with the numbers and the details for also the consumption of the public. And we also were able to get the reports already, sir. Thus far, we have received over 190 reports, 194 reports related to issues about child protection and child rights. In terms of the numbers, the number to call, sir, would be 86321372. For the mobile, it's 0945-175-9777.
Okay.
Then there's also a jump-off point, sir, on the DepEd website, and they may also email weprotectlearners@deped.gov.ph.
Okay. So for those who report either to their teacher, to their principal, or through the hotline, what are the next steps? Can you explain to the committee what are the programs, the policies that you have rolled out in line with the Anti-Bullying Act? No? And what are the policies have you already undertaken to address bullying? No?
We have launched quite a number of initiatives, Mr. Chair, as mentioned already in your resolution, from the establishment of the child protection committees within each school and the reportorial mechanisms, primarily towards the superintendents. Again, unfortunately, we have limited coverage over private schools. And as such, it would be a wonderful addition in the event that we would be improving the law. In terms of our efforts, we are developing, sir, the child protection committees that are going to address our children at risk and children in conflict with the law, and launching e-courses on anti-bullying, as well as information and educational materials through documentaries and a revision of our internal child protection policy, given the notable shift in the data now tackling gender as well as cyberbullying, as well as hopefully having a stronger referral system, particularly to other national government agencies, such as DOH, in the event that there are physical injuries gained through the bullying incident, as well as, of course, our legal team coordinating when it comes to those that already are in conflict with the law, and hoping to help train our teachers, again, in the absence of our registered guidance counselors, at least to be able to facilitate and encourage reporting among our learners when it comes to experienced cases of bullying.
It's like these are, I read your department orders, no? These are more reactionary if the bullying already happened. What are the policies and programs you have to prevent bullying from happening, make our schools safe, these type of things, no? Because the child protection committees, from what I understand, is geared towards reaction, how to address issues of bullying, no? But how do you prevent bullying from happening in schools?
One of the most effective ways that we are championing mechanisms to prevent bullying really focus on child rights awareness among our learners. And this is also one of the reasons why there was a move to combine the efforts of our child protection unit and our child's rights education desk, because we see a very clear relation between the two. Particularly integrating child rights into the curriculum, it would be very difficult for a learner to understand that they're being bullied if they are not taught what bullying is or how to recognize bullying. And as such, it is integrated in the curriculum. And at the same time, constant provision of IEC materials, advocacies, and capacity building opportunities, not only for the teachers, but also for our learners. We're also activating our NFSSG, our student governments, in order to help facilitate the reporting of cases. Those that were afraid to course the concern through the teachers may course it through the student councils for immediate action and, again, subsequent reporting.
Okay. Well, the first order of business, ASEC, is to improve your mechanism for reporting, because we can see there's a lot of students who are not reporting, who are scared of reporting, and we can see that there's a disparity between what is being gathered by assessment agencies versus what is on the ground, no? And that leads me to a conclusion that our units on the ground are not functioning, no? They should be the one gathering all of this data and reporting to DepEd so that we will see whether the law is effective or not, no? That's my point. All of this information and data should be gathered so that we can have an analysis of the law, no? But if you look at the numbers that you gave us, malayong malayo siya, no? And what is the 240? I'm curious, no, from GMA 7. What is that number?
Sir, we shall confirm in our
Can you
planning
ask
service.
your people to confirm while we call other experts to join in the conversation? We invited other experts here to give us their thoughts on bullying, and yeah, and then we'll go back to you to verify the reports. We'll call first. Now we'll start with the stakeholders, because we invited a lot of experts here, and a lot of our experts have been studying this issue. So we'll start off with the Child Protection Network Foundation, Dr. Bernadette Madrid. Dr. Madrid?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Good
we can.
morning. Good
Yes, we
morning,
can hear you, Pao.
Senator. Honorable Senator Gatchalian and Honorable Senator Padilla, thank you very much for inviting me to this very valuable hearing. And we have the data to explain so many of the questions that were asked. Number one, the reporting. We have the National Baseline Survey on Violence Against Children done in 2016. And the results also show 65% of our children being bullied. So it validates those numbers. This is a nationwide survey led by the Council for the Welfare of Children. Number two, the survey also showed that less than 1% reported. And the reasons for not reporting are many. One of which is that they are afraid. Of course, you all got that. I think even Senator Padilla, in his own personal experience, already revealed so many of the results of the studies. They are afraid. They know that if they report, they will not be safe from the bullies. And then also, some of them feel they can handle it on their own, so they do not need to report. And for those who reported, many also felt that they were not helped, that the reports were not taken seriously. So there are many reasons, and we have that in the results. Third, we also did research with DepEd on what can be done to prevent violence against children, including bullying, and we already have the results of that. And this is the Safe Schools program, which showed that it could decrease bullying by half. And this study on safe schools was based on the National Baseline Survey on Violence. And so, which showed also that if the students ever report, they would first report to their friends rather than to authorities. So helping friends know how to help their friends, in reporting is very critical. So with DepEd, we tested, including in the health and values or ESP curriculum, what was we felt helpful to the students. And these were, for example, in prevention, learning mindfulness, which we are now, Your Honor, also now going to implement in Valenzuela City, all the schools in Valenzuela, because it showed that mindfulness could also help in mental health promotion, not only in bullying. So it has many uses. So we feel that it should be part of the curriculum. So we will test it in the whole schools, all the public schools in Valenzuela. And there were also other modules that were inserted in values. It goes beyond just knowledge. Yes, we need knowledge, but they also need very practical strategies that they will be able to implement for this to be successful. So as I said, that research in safe schools already showed which of these will be helpful in decreasing bullying. And last, so that I don't monopolize, we also find that, of course, everyone knows guidance counselors are very important, and that there's so few guidance counselors in public schools precisely because of the salary structure. So the salary structure for guidance counselors, there are no applicants because the salary is too low. That really needs to be increased. Number two, as transition, meanwhile, while there are not enough guidance counselors, what DepEd is doing is having guidance, they appoint teachers to be guidance counselors. The problem there is that these teachers, while they want to do the work, this is on top of their already full workload. So they do not have the time to do this guidance counseling on top of their already full workload. So our suggestion is that this guidance part, which is added into their work, should also be given units so that it's not so that their workload includes this, so that they'll be able to do their guidance job. Meanwhile, that there are no guidance counselors. And last but not least, this is not only a problem of public schools. This is also a problem of private schools. But the child protection policy of DepEd only covers public schools, so there are none for private schools. So that's all that I would like to say right now, Your Honor. Thank you for the privilege.
Yeah. Dr. Madrid, you mentioned some statistics in the beginning. What are the sources of those numbers?
This was a nationwide survey done, no, in all the 17 provinces of the country.
What's the name?
National Baseline Survey on Violence Against Children. And the lead agency was the Council for the Welfare of Children.
And then what are the results?
65% bullying. No, and there were,
64
of course, yes, 65% bullying. And the
So-
other results there covered violence like physical, sexual, and emotional violence, which were also very high. Like physical violence was 66%. Emotional violence was 58%. Sexual violence was 20%. And bullying was 65%.
And this is across all grade levels?
Yes, yes. The survey was done on those aged 13 to 17 years, but the question is about lifetime, no? So not only when they were 13 or 17, but even when they were younger, that was included in the question. So it's not limited to one grade level. But as we know, middle school is really the peak time for bullying.
Dr. Madrid, if you do the simple math and apply it to our student population from grades 1 to grades 12, 65% is about 17.5 million. Is that,
I would agree. Correct. Because we have, for the public schools, there are like 27 million students for DepEd.
Is it safe to conclude that 17.5 million students experience some form of bullying in our country?
Yes. Yes.
Because bullying can come in all forms, eh, 'di ba? It can be
Right.
as complex as cyberbullying. It can be as simple as verbal or yung mga panloloko.
Yeah, we have a different statistics in that same survey for cyberbullying. Cyberbullying was 44%.
And because that's the initial conclusion rin, Dr. Madrid, that if you look at DepEd's number today, it's only less than 1%. So why the disparities? And how do we solve that disparity? Because obviously, if the students will not report, we cannot help them. Based on your expert opinion po.
Yes. So in that same study on safe schools, one of our goals was to increase reporting. So it was included in the health and in the values curriculum, how to report. And also, it also told their friends, so it does not target only the victim, but also their friends, because they're the classmates, on how they can help their classmates increase reporting. So, and I'm happy right now with the development of InDepEd, where they have different ways of reporting now, no? Unlike before, during the study. Now they have, you can do it by chat, you can do it by email, you can, there are different ways now of doing it with the present system, which was just newly instituted in DepEd. And I would also like to emphasize that there are schools, I feel, that do not want the reports to increase because it will reflect badly on them. No, I think that meanwhile, what should be rewarded is the behavior of schools where you have increased number of reporting, because that means they are doing their job. It doesn't mean that with the increased reporting that that means that that school is bad. So we find that there are schools that really don't want to report because they think it will reflect on them, that there are many cases when in fact it's good if there is a lot of reports from the school, because we know that 60% of their students are being bullied. So if there are if there are zero reports, that means that the students in their school are afraid to report. So reporting should be made easy. And right now, I could see the efforts of DepEd. And number two, reporting should be rewarded, and they should be protected.
My last question, Dr. Madrid, before we give our other experts some time to share their thoughts. How come the number is so high? No, almost 65%, the highest in the world, according to PISA. How come the Philippines is experiencing that high of a number in terms of bullying?
We connect it with the fact that our violence against children numbers are really very high. So physical violence, for example, is 66%. So that's almost the same as the bullying number. And most of the perpetrators in that physical violence are family members. So they experience physical violence at home. So that's why when we see a bully, we know that that behavior reflects what this bully is already experiencing at home. So intervention with the bully needs intervention of what is happening at home. He himself suffering from physical violence or emotional violence or even sexual violence at home, and then very high domestic violence at home also, mother and father fighting each other. So this behavior of the bully is actually just a reflection of what is happening in the home most of the time.
Dr. Madrid, I flash on the screen. No, this is from PISA. If you can see, there is bullying across all nations. No, it's happening, but the disparity is so glaring. Like for example, in Korea, it's less than 10%. In the Philippines, it's 65%. No, how come the disparity is so big? No, that's and the OECD average is around 20%. Even if you look at the average, we're triple the average of the PISA assessment. So, what are we not doing in the Philippines that this is happening? We're not doing something, eh.
Yes, I agree with you. This is very concerning statistics, why we are number one in the world. So high compared to the rest of the world. And the explanation I could really see is the fact that we have a very high prevalence of violence against children in the home. And the acceptance of corporal punishment in the Philippines is so high. So people think that this is how children should be disciplined, when in fact what we are producing are very aggressive children because of that. So another program that is very important is the parenting program, effective parenting programs, I may say, because if again it's just about lectures do not really do much, no? So the strategy on how parenting is taught is also very important.
Thank you, Dr. Madrid. I have so many questions to you, but I think we'll take up the entire day talking about this. But I'll go back to you, Dr. Madrid, about other things, but we'll call on our other experts. We're very privileged that our other experts gave us time today. So let me call on Dr. Karandang. And then Dr. Karandang,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am. And what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yes, very many thoughts. Okay, first of all, I think I'd like to affirm what my friend Dr. Bernie Madrid said, no, that we're very high. It affirms, it validates the worldwide trend, and also that in our institute, we're focusing on discipline and parenting. I think uh, parenting is crucial in terms of the values and the kind of discipline that the children absorb very early. And even if they go to school, they still absorb it if there is no processing or there is no, as she said, a good parenting program. We have what is called our flagship program is Parenting is Nation Building. Is nation building, not end, no, is nation building. And we find that we have gone through all over the country, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, doing parenting in barangays. And Bernie is right. One, when they discipline, it always involves violence. Violence that is verbal. Bakit yung ginawa yan? Ang tanga-tanga mo. That's very common, no? So we have to tell them that you don't have, bakit palagi may dagdag? Bakit hindi mo ginawa ang tanga mo? Bakit nga ang tamad mo? Always may dagdag na insulto, plus may physical violence which is accepted. So it's a cultural thing also that we have to look at. I think we have to look at a nationwide advocacy or awareness. No, that's very, very important. And I think we can have many people, organizations participate in this, because the root of it is really the family. So I think we have to focus on the family. Of course, in the schools, I also commend DepEd for the reporting, different ways of reporting. I didn't know that they're direct reporting already and online. I think that's very good. But still, we are underreported, because another thing is, I think that the understanding of what bullying is not yet out there. I mean, teachers, even the students are not even clear what is bullying. In fact, what is bullying? Bullying is having power, but not just power, but power over another person, over another. For bullying, you have to have a victim. You have to have a target. You cannot bully by yourself. No, so bullying is having power over another. Okay, number one. So that's one. And I think we have to be clear about what is bullying, because we may think we know, but there are many aspects of bullying or the dynamics that we don't know. But if we look at it as in definition is power, we also can see that culturally, people in power also, nationally, there's bullying. I mean, I'm not saying it's just in the family, but that's the most basic social unit is the family, and the most powerful social unit is the family. So we are also not targeting the family or the parents enough. That's one. So the focus also is preventive sana. Aside from we already have data, maybe it's not enough, but we already know it's happening. And Bernie Madrid also really validated the 65, 66, whatever percent, that is already enough for us to know that we should do something. One is we can focus also on the preventive, no, which is parenting, because if you look at it, anything you do, like you're a labandera, you have to have a skill. You have a driver, you have to have a skill. But to be a parent, there's absolutely no skill necessary. Zero. You only have to have a child, and you're identified as a parent. There's no training whatsoever for parenting. And we can incorporate it in the schools. That's one. And then mindfulness, which I've been practicing and teaching, is also one of the most effective practices that we can even give to the parents and also to the teachers and the whole school milieu. No? Because if you look at it, basically, what's the opposite of school where there's a lot of bullying? A school that is a caring community. Usually the bullying is very, very low. And I've heard this from many students. No? So how do we build a caring community in a school, which is preventive as well as addressing what is already happening? And I think it's so important. I really wish we could do all these aspects and help each other to do all this preventive, the parenting, the mindfulness, and understanding of bullying, and therefore different kinds of bullying. And so I think we are really on the right track. We just have to amplify what Bernie had said also about having safe schools, the preventive mindfulness, and mindfulness also as a way to improve mental health. We also have to talk about mental health, and as a, maybe this is under mental health, no? This whole thing of bullying, we could put it under that, and then we could do the preventive, the family parenting, and then another preventive for teachers and also the students. Because I think not to add to the teachers' work, but some of them are not aware, or they don't have enough understanding of bullying, and they themselves also bully because they're stressed, and they're also maybe bullied by some other people before. So I think we have to focus on the preventive parenting, mindfulness, and put it in the curriculum, so that whatever statistics we have, we will know that we have to do something about bullying anyway. I mean, the statistics are very useful, but the answer is we have to do something about bullying already, even if we don't have the exact statistics. So that would be my, I mean, it's long, but that's enough for now.
Thank you, Dr. Hani. Before I call the others, Dr. Hani, I want to take advantage of your presence here, being an expert. Is bullying a form of mental health issue? Is it interrelated? And I'm asking this as a layman, no, and people watching also who are not experts. Are they connected? No, mental health, bullying, being bullied, and also the bully. Are those interrelated to mental health? I see a lot of our experts nodding their heads, and I'll call
Very
them
much.
later on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's under mental health. And I want to say also that bullying is a system. You have the bully, the bullied, and the bystander by definition. No? We're not, so we have the bully, the bullied, and the bystander. And some of the programs that we have helped schools with is you have to focus on the bystander also, the one who's witnessing it. Is it a friend? Is it the teacher? And all that. So it has to be stopped by a bystander. So there's not just the bully and the bullied. We have to make sure we see the whole system, that there is what you call the bystander. What does the bystander have to do? That's very, very important. The education and awareness and strategies of the bystander. So in some schools, they have already oriented the bystander by either stopping it or having a way to encourage safe reporting and things like that. So I'd like to just mention that. Yes, it's under mental health, definitely.
Before I call the others, let me just pursue that. How is it related to mental health, Dr. Hani? Both the bullied and the one being bullied, the one bullying. How is it related to mental health?
Yes. First of all, the bullying, by definition, there is violence against the person. No, violence. I mean, you violate the person. You put down the person by verbal bullying. You insult or you hit. Physical bullying or emotional bullying, you just ignore, and then you look in a certain way. A group of very common, a group of leaders in the school, somebody comes in and they look at her in a bad way, and they move away. It's a very, very insulting look, and it almost directly results to adolescent depression and suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts. This is already something that has to be studied systematically, but from our experience, bullying, cyberbullying, but emotional bullying and social exclusion among adolescents is already a very, very already linked to depression and suicidal ideation. So I think that's definitely a mental health issue. So I think there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hani. I'll go back to you in later on. I have so many questions. We'll call on Dr. Lolina Bahin, ma'am.
Yes, good morning to Senator Gatchalian and the rest. representing PAP, Psychological Association of the Philippines. I personally, being a clinician or psychology practitioner, several cases I was able to handle to bullying cases, such as like Saturday personal experience may share ko. These children aging teenagers were bullied by the families and in the school, at the same time triggered in the community. And there was one 2 weeks ago who committed suicide, 14 years old, because according to the family, when I interviewed them, the child has no somebody to comfort the pain, whatever, because there was a triggering factors from the community. So I think we have to enhance the mental health preventive measures to focus on bullying nowadays. At the same time, the advocacy of mental health literacy in the community, family, and in the school, and at the same time to improve or enhance the telepsych or the online hub, which was mentioned from the DepEd, because every Saturday, nakafocus po ako sa psych clinic ko in I'm based in Zamboanga City. Halos ang pumupunta referred by the parents and the school is they were bullied. So I think the bullying must be given utmost attention, and that I strongly agree from Dr. Caranda, my mentor, na this is a part of the mental health, because being abused by verbal abuses and other forms of abuses, psychological torturing, emotional, that would form into traumatic experiences for the victims. At the same time, these perpetrators, this is also a mental health preventive program para po wala pong repetition of abuses. I think that's only the contribution I have as of now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bahin. Dr. Bahin, I heard this from Dr. Madrid earlier, no, family, no, and being bullied by the family members, no. I heard that earlier. How is this possible? Because the family is supposed to be the one caring. How come the family has become the source of bullying?
Yes, such as this is a personal, being a clinician, why I could say that the child has no therapeutic environment from the family, school, and the community, such as blaming the child, insulting the child, such as bobo ka, tanga kang bata, something like that, instead of giving therapeutic words or reinforcement to positive words na ibibigay sa bata to comfort the pain, where the child came from, that perpetrator, abuser, wala po. So, and many more, and dami po siyang verbal abuses o profane language na hindi po karapat-dapat sasabihin doon sa teenagers na yun. Aside from teenagers, also the adult in the workplaces. Bullying is really, sabihin natin, rampant now in the workplaces.
And I want to tap your expert opinion. The one, the bully, no, is that a form of mental health condition as well? Yung nabubully, alam natin that's abuse, no? But the one, the bully, no, is that also a mental health condition?
Yes, if there are, of course, the victims of bullying automatically, there are emotional, psychologically, aside from physical abuses, other forms of abuses. So that would be forming into mental health problems or mental health issues to the victims. Likewise, the victimizers or the perpetrators having also mental health problem in them.
Bakit ho? Exerting one strength over the other, how come that is a mental health issue? No, I just want to, from a layman, I'm asking this being a layman, how is that a mental health issue po?
As such as, of course, the pain, the torturing of the mind of the victims, the emotional torturing, aside from physical or sexual forms of abuses. So it would lead into such as manifestations of traumatic stress, or that would leading into PTSD if severe abuses received, post-traumatic stress disorder. So that psychologically, that the abuse would suffer from depression, anxiety, and that would be comorbidities of lack of focus, lack of motivation in their life, and lack of direction, goal setting, etc.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I'll call on Dr. Hani first and then Dr. Banaag. I think this is a very important topic. So Dr. Hani, and then we call on Dr. Banaag.
Yes, just so it will not be neglected, the bully also needs help. No? As I said, it's a system. The bully needs help because why do you bully? If you're a mentally healthy person and you are relatively okay, I mean happy relatively, you don't have so many inadequacies and all kinds of psychological issues, you don't have to bully. The bully needs to bully to fulfill certain unfulfilled needs inside, no, that are not fulfilled at home or in school, and therefore the bully exerts his power, which he doesn't feel inside because maybe there are inadequacies, lack of competence, etc. So, and of course, he sees the modeling of the bullying in the family or in the country. The bullying, no, is a model. The bullying behavior, is a model that children absorb. But what I'm worried about is the bully can become a person who has no empathy, who has no remorse, if it's repeated, no. So we have again people who are, no conscience, and then we go back to the CICL, the children in conflict with the law, who are at least being helped early. But these are, it's very, very important to look at both. The bully also needs help. The bully also has mental health issues. I just want to say that.
Thank you, Dr. Hani, for that. We call on Dr. Banaag. Dr. Banaag, you're on mute po.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Can
yes
you
po.
hear me?
Yes.
I'm very glad I'm with good friends like Dr. Hani Karandang, Bernie Madrid, and all the rest of our professionals here. I just want to reinforce some of the points taken. Let me pick up from what had been said earlier about the bully. You know, when bullying happens, the victim is the victim and gets all the sympathy. And so much is lost in paying attention to the bully. The bully is a very angry person. Where is that anger coming from? I think there had been allusions to the family and maybe even the school. The school has become a major stress, a major source of stress for many of our young people. So the bully carries a big burden that now gets placed to someone that is of lower power. He picks on someone weaker. There is, as Dr. Karandang, Dr. Madrid, everybody else had mentioned, an imbalance in power. Now, we have talked about all the possible causes and points of intervention. Family has been repeatedly mentioned, and I can never underscore that. The question is, we were disciplined by our parents in ways that would be considered bullying now. In our generations, we were spanked. We were told, ikaw kasi ang tanga mo, hindi ka nakikinig, This went well in our generation, but this will never go well in this generation. This is the first generation that is living with an environment we have never seen before. This is a generation with a different mindset, and I presume a different connectivity in their brain. They're very sensitive to certain words. They use body shaming. They use bullying so much. They use, you're shaming me, you're underestimating me, you're judging me. These are the favorite words of this generation. And all this come from sources from outside. I mean, they feel shame, they feel underestimated, they feel minimized. I think mostly because of the language that adults do, especially from their parents. Alam mo naman yon, role ng parents yung mapagalitan ng anak, yung madisiplina ang anak. Sabi ko nga, in previous generations, those kinds of disciplinary measures were okay, not questioned. But now these children need empathetic words. You cannot say, ano ba, kain ka ng kain, tumataba ka na, you know. That's bullying to them, you know. Maaaring sabihin na, anak, napupuna ko yata, medyo nagigain ka ng weight Baka kailangan pag-isipan natin yan. They want something empathetic. They want something, you know, my usual simple words when I give lectures to parents is this: connect before you correct. Huwag kang magagalit. Yakapin mo muna kung nagkamali man. And just say, ano ba anak yung problema? Baka pwedeng pag-usapan natin, you know? Pag hindi mo kayang sagutin, pwede mo sabihin, anak, medyo mabigat ang problema. Baka kailangan natin ang tulong ng mga ibang tao. That's when we tap the likes of Dr. Carandang, Dr. Madrid, the psychologists, psychiatrists, you know. But there is empathetic and loving experience with the parents first before that can be done. There is a lot of stress for this generation. Like I said, this is the first generation navigating a world that is saturated with social media, with technical
Oops, nawala.
Dr. Manaag.
sometimes be confusing.
Dr.
Yes.
Manaag, can you rewind the last 2 minutes? Medyo nag-choppy ho kayo. Sayang ho yung sinasabi nyo.
Ah,
I think that's a very important
ang
note. Last 2
sinasabi-
minutes.
I was just pointing out that this is the first generation in the human race to navigate an environment that is something we never saw before. An environment saturated with technology to a point na I'm beginning to worry na dehumanize tayo. They don't keep eye contact as much as we did because they're always with their tools, with their cell phone, with their laptops, you know. Even when they converse with their friends, it has to be through the laptops. We know the power of eye-to-eye contact, and that is getting less and less. So there are so many things happening in this generation that's making them the way they are. They are not weak, but they're dealing with something very new, you know.
Yes.
And they need our guidance. Hindi yung galit natin na hindi natin maintindihan. Kung yung teenager nagtatago sa kwarto, hindi yun dapat sigawa na, ano ka ba, lagi ka na lang dyan sa kwarto mo. Hindi ka, kumain ka, sabay ka sa amin, you know. Come on, kumakain na kami. Hindi pwede yung ganun eh. Pwede ba sabihin mo man lang, anak, naiisip mo ba na namimiss ka namin? Namimiss ka namin kasi makwento ka sa pagkainan natin eh. Ngayon, lagi ka nakakulong. These are examples of empathetic statements. I'm giving some examples of how we connect before we correct. But let me take another point. Dr. Carandang very clearly showed us the ecology of bullying. There is a bully, there is the bullied, the victim, and there are the bystanders. And our focus had often been on the bullied. Now increasingly we're trying to see the bully. But we never talk about the bystanders. We never involve them in our discussions. We don't get the opinion of those who are not bullied on what they think about this bullying and how do they think this can be reduced in their school. I think we need to talk to the rest of the school population. We need to select the leaders. And the Philippine Mental Health Association is launching a program on no bullying. This is we are contextualizing this. This is a program in the United States, and we are in the process of contextualizing this in our own culture. But we already, by we, I mean the people in PMHA, you know, our excellent young people in PMHA. Our people in PMHA have already started working with different schools. We're tentatively treading the waters, you know, applying new ideas. We are now developing coaches, school coaches, you know, sometimes the teachers, sometimes the counselors. And they are trained to meet with the other students. Whether there is bullying or no bullying, there is effort made to talk to the students about their ideas about bullying. And especially when a bullying happens, the coach will gather together 6, 8, maybe 10 student leaders and talk about this. What do you think of this? Why is this happening? What can be done in the school so that this will not happen? We need to listen to the leaders. These young people have brilliant ideas, but they feel they're not listened to. So with that, I just want to stop at this point, just to emphasize that in all our conversations, let's not forget the bystanders, because they also want to be heard in safe spaces. And let's make school a safe space again. Let's make it as enjoyable as we had enjoyed in our own time. School is no longer enjoyable to our students. It has become a threat to their security. You know, one of my patients very tightly said it. You know, my school, I think, has become only a matter of compliance. I do so many things. I keep chasing the reports that I have to submit, but I don't think I am learning, and that doesn't make me happy. I think that was a very, very important statement from a 16-year-old patient of mine.
Thank you, Dr. Banaag. And let me greet and acknowledge the presence of Senator Bato de la Rosa, a known disciplinarian, positive disciplinarian naman po, no? And any opening remarks?
There's none, Mr. Chair. I'll just listen and maybe ask a few questions later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bato. Lahat po ng dinisiplina nito naging mabuting tao ni Ma'am po, no? Dr. Banaag, I have a question, no? And this might sound oversimplistic, but you know, all of us went through a different era of discipline. I remember when I was a kid, kinukulong po ako, tsaka pinapalo po ako eh. But we all turned out okay, I think. Okay naman yata ako, Senator Bato, no? I think I'm an okay person. But what is now, how come, because that's a common argument of my generation, that we grew up in this type of environment, but we're okay. No? How come this time the environment is different? And is it the 60% being bullied? Is it because the way they are treated is perceived to be much harsher than we experienced in the past? Kumbaga, sa tingin nila, yung discipline now is harsher compared to the discipline before. And why is it like that, Dr. Banaag? And how do we address this? No? Because if the generation thinks that discipline is a form of bullying, no, then how do we solve this? No, how do we approach this so that we will reduce the incidence of bullying, we will reduce the incidence of mental health? No, I don't know if I made myself clear. No, but my question is basically I'm getting this notion that discipline is being perceived as bullying. You know, how do we? I might be wrong. I'm not an expert, no, but I might be wrong. But that's parang what I am And I'm gathering from feedback.
Kailangan siyempre may discipline. At ang magulang na hindi nagdi-discipline is not really playing the role of a parent. There are also parents who avoid discipline and become friends to their children. It's okay to be a friendly parent, but don't be a friend. They will find their own friends outside. You are a friendly parent and you're supposed to set limits. Now, the problem is, how do you set the limits? In previous generations, setting the limits can mean a spanking. In this generation, a spanking is child abuse. This is where the power of meaning in our mind plays very importantly. When we were growing up, we did not even use the word bully. Hindi ko alam yung bully when I was a young boy, you know. At pag napalo ako, nakikita ko yon na ang mother ko, dinidisiplina ko, you know. Iiyak ako, pero nagtatanda, you know. Pero ngayon, bullying is such a big word. And all young people, practically all young people, know the word bully. And so when they are spanked, hit, shamed at home, they see that as being bullied. The definition of it is being bullied by their own parents. And so, this easily gets repeated outside. Now, someone had asked me, bakit po ganon? Yung araw, magulang ang ginagalang ng mga bata. Bakit po ba ngayon, magulang ang kailangan gumalang sa mga bata? Hindi naman ganon. Ang paggalang natin sa mga bata ay pinakikita sa pagmamahal, hindi sa pamamalo. There are many different ways of disciplining now. And dito siguro rin nagkukulang ang ating mga professionals. Thank goodness there is Dr. Karandang, but our focus should be a large part of it not on the individual bullies and bullied, but on the family. Because in most cases of bullying, there is a background of family. Happens in the family. The family may not see it as bullying, but the child sees it as bullying and puts the powerful meaning of bullying the way we do now in this session, that bullying is not acceptable. So, ito siguro yung pagkakaiba. Ang kailangan lang ngayon, yung disiplina will take a different form. Una, there should be a lot of safety. The child feels safe in the love and care of their parents. At pag napagsabihan, hindi shaming. Hindi yung nakakaya yung ginagawa mo. Ano ka ba? Bakit ganyan? Hindi ka na natuto. Hindi naman ganon. I had given some examples of empathetic. Yun ang kailangan nila, empathetic, you know. Ito na lang, pag yung mga bata bumabagsak, hindi nang gagawa ang homework, mapapagalitan, mapapalo pa, you know. Hindi mo kasi ginagawa, hindi ka nakikinig, you know. Sinabi ko na sa iyo, mali yan, ganito ang dapat mong gawin. Ayaw na mga bata ngayon, yung sasabihan sila kung anong dapat gawin. Lalo na mga teenagers. They want to have an option. So how do we do that? Instead of saying, wag ganito gawin mo, ganito, ang tigas ng ulo mo eh. Say, well, we've tried this, it doesn't seem to work. What about if we try this one? We're saying the same thing, but put in a different word. When we use the word, what about if we try this as a way of solving this? This is given the young person an option to say yes or to say no. And that's what they like. They like the autonomy to be able to make decisions. And they feel their parents are depriving them of that when they're simply told in angry tones what they should do. Now, kasalanan ba lagi ng magulang? Hindi naman. Nagkukulang din ng siguro nangangailangan din ng tulong ang magulang. Kaya nga ang focus namin ngayon is more and more work with the family. Because a lot of these problems start with the family. Now, yung issue na mental health ba ang bullying? Yes, it definitely is. Yung bully, katakot-takot ang dala niyan na burden sa isipan niya. There's a lot of anger, looking for displacement, looking for objects, mga tao pwede niyang pagbuntunan, at naghahanap siya nung medyo mahina sa kanya para maibuhos niya yung galit niya. Maraming pinanggagalingan ng galit. Maaring sa bahay, sa school, kahit na sa mga peers. Kaya nga, yung bully is perhaps the first target of intervention if we want to prevent this. So, focus tayo doon sa bully and focus tayo sa bystander. Baka mabawasan ang victims of bully that way.
Yes, Senator Bato?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to go back yung sinabi mo kanina na observation mo. Pag-contextualize ng bullying. Ako kasi nakikita ko baka tayo as a nation ay masyado na tayong yung kultura natin ba? Baka we are just trying to copy the culture of other countries and o kaya we are just very much subservient kung anong standard na gustong pasunod sa atin ng ibang bansa pagdating sa ating mga how we raise our children. Kaya siguro nagkaiba-iba yung ating standard ng bullying. Pero ako I really hate bullying. I really hate, ayaw ko yung bullying talaga. Pero yung nga lang, when you say, pagpalaki ng mga anak ko, I am the king of my family. I know how to raise my children. Kaya, no amount of standards coming from outside can force me to change my attitude towards disciplining my children. So, yun lang mga... Ewan ko paano how do we do this kasi sabi nga natin yung aking mga pamangkin doon sa Amerika galit na galit ako sa kapatid ko na police kasi gusto na niyang paluin yung kanyang anak dahil masyado nang abusado. Tapos yung papaluin niya nire-report siya sa police. Sabi ko hindi mo pwede gawin yan sa Pilipinas. Ikaw anak kita tapos disiplinahin kita i-report mo ko sa police. Hindi mo pwede sa akin. Pero yun nga lang. Mahirap. Sige lang. I will just listen. I will continue to listen from our experts. Alam natin yung mga kailangan natin matuto from our experts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Bato. Well, definitely, our generation is much different than the generation now, no? So, I think the message that I'm getting from their experts, especially our psychologists and psychiatrists, that because of technology, nag-iba the wiring of our youth, the next generation, iba eh. Yung wiring ng utak natin at wiring ng utak nila, iba, no? In a sense that it creates bullies and also some students are being bullied, no? Because of that different wiring, so to speak, no? And because of technology.
Yeah, totoo yun, Mr. Chair. Dahil nga, sa panahon natin, we just keep preparing to our time, di ba? Iba na talaga panahon ngayon. Iba ng standard ngayon ng kabataan. Pero nung panahon natin, pag nagpapabuli ka, parang masyado mong kinakawawa sa sarili mo. You have to fight for yourself, di ba? Kaya magsusurvive ka dapat against sa bullying sa panahon natin. Pero ngayon, iba na talaga. So, kung hindi natin maintindihan yung kultura ng kabataan ngayon, magkakaroon talaga tayo ng disconnect with them. Kaya pilitin natin ito ngayon na magkakaintindihan tayo. At sana naman yung kabataan natin, maintindihan rin nila yung ating pinanggalingan. Yun lang ang hope ko. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bato, for that intervention. I know, alam ko sa buhay nyo, marami ko yung dinisiplina, no? So, yung iba ho siguro, wala na ho dito sa Pilipinas. Baka nagtakbuhan na ho sa iba. Let's call on Dr. Hoxon of the Philippine Guidance and Counseling Association.
Thank you, Senator Win, and to all our dear senators. So, yeah, I do concur with all our experts, no. And one of the root cause of the problem of bullying is what you call contempt. No? So, contempt is the powerful feeling of dislike. And when ang dami pong hatred sa mundo ngayon, sa social media, unfortunately sa pamilya, which is lack of belongingness and acceptance, so nagkakaroon po ng emotional cut-off, no, lalo na yung mga bata sa kanilang mga pamilya. And because of this dislike, nagkakaroon po tayo ng three apparent psychological advantages. No? So ito po yung, minsan they want to be entitled, they want to dominate, they want to have a say, a piece, no, or word. And then yung iba naman po, intolerance toward differences. Kasi yung mga multi-generational trauma na nadala pa ng kanilang mga magulang, no, and conflicts. And of course, the liberty to exclude. Kaya po importante po talaga na magkaroon po tayo ng masinsinang pag-aaral sa bullying noon at ngayon na nag-evolve na rin. And on the part of the PGCA, the Guidance and Counseling, so marami rin po kami psikolohista, I'm also a psychologist. So I do hope that we have to be serious, hindi lang po ito nasusulat sa batas, but we really have to anchor evidence-based programs and models in a multi-tiered system, yung sustainable. Kasi ang nakikita po natin, minsan, one time, big time lang yung mga seminar. So I do hope that we can have really the promotion, the prevention, the intervention and postvention. At kasama po dyan yung seryosong monitoring, evaluation at saka research in a multidisciplinary at nagkakatulungan po in a multisectoral and all systems level approach. Wala pong nalileft behind. Lalo na yung mga mahihirap, yung mga different and gender, into a one nation approach. Okay? And then siguro po, on the part of the counselor, for the ethical standards din po ng counselor, I do hope that we can also suggest na magkaroon din po tayo ng dedicated discipline officer po sa bawat eskwelahan, pribado man or pampubliko, na magbibigay din po hindi lang po ng pagdisiplina, kundi transformative program. Kasi po, ang nakikita po natin is that yung mga counselor kasi ay nagiging disciplinarian sa ibang eskwelahan. So hindi po natin trabaho yon. Ang trabaho po ng isang counselor ay hindi po nag-iimbestiga, but after the validated investigation ng isang discipline officer na qualified, ito po ay dinadala sa isang counselor for psychological processing. At magkaroon siya ng somewhat, kung nagkaroon sila ng trauma or nagkaroon sila ng, kailangan nila ng psychological first aid, depending on the bully, the bystander, or the victim, or para magkaroon din po ng realization, no, at choices. So ito po yung mga pinupush po namin because sa pagiging isang counselor din at psikologista, no, ng medyo matagal na panahon na rin po. Ngayon po, nakikita rin naming produkto talaga ng maraming suicidal cases. No, we have a lot of recent suicidal cases now. Ay isa rin po sa malaking naging problema ay ang bullying, no, because when you get bullied, one of the negative effects pag hindi ka talaga nagkaroon ng psychological processing is what you call delinquency. So ito po yung piece namin. And then I'll just call lang po Sir Francis, baka may gusto pa siyang idagdag on the part of the guidance lang din po. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Francis Subong.
Thank you,
Mr. Francis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In addition po sa sinasabi ni Dr. Hoxon, no? Kanina we've noticed na from the DepEd side, no, ang kakulangan ng RGCs, yes, it's been a problem, but I think for the past years before this current administration, our
You're coming in choppy, Mr. Subong. We'll go back. Hello, Mr. Subong?
yes po. Can you
Yeah,
hear me
yeah,
po?
Yeah, okay na. Go ahead.
Okay, apologies for the signal. No, I think the utilization po ng ating guidance counselors, because we have only around 229 divisions and we have around 600 guidance counselors, no? So if nakaposisyon yung guidance counselor sa division office, it can provide technical assistance and support po sa ating mga guidance teachers. Secondly, prevention programs, no. Isa pong prevention program na ginawa ng ating Department of Education is the homeroom guidance program or curriculum. Halin tulad po ito ng ating socio-emotional learning. So if our fellow experts would look for skills, nandyan po the training, because yung ating homeroom guidance is nakapaloob or founded in the academics domain, socio-emotional domain, and academic domain. So definitely it will provide preventative approach. And additionally sa ating mga teachers, because having part, no, or nagiging part siya ng as mentioned by Dr. Madrid, no, designation, this is additional burden sa ating teachers. I follow up din po, no, na kailangan natin yung discipline officers. Last Congress po, as far as I'm concerned, meron pong panukala si Representative Tutor ng Bohol for the additional human resource, especially for discipline officers in schools. Sila po yung mag-handle what is black, what is white. Then guidance counselors would come in for processing po. Iba naman po yung nag-implement ng ating school policies and discipline. Siguro yun lang po yung ma-add ko. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Subong. We're also joined by CIMEO, Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization. I think Mr. Ibanez is here physically to share with us their research and their thoughts on the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Honorable Senator Gatchalian, Honorable Senator De La Rosa, and Honorable Senator Batilla, and honorable guests present in this hearing. On behalf of Dr. Ethel Agnes Pasco Valenzuela, our Director of the CIMEO Secretariat, which is based in Bangkok, Thailand, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to the senators who invited us, for allowing us to share our insights. Before we proceed in sharing further some of the findings that were already cited by our Honorable Chair about the CPLM data, maybe first, I just would like to read our position paper on the matter. So we would like to situate the issue of bullying within the broader context of mental well-being, which proves to be a critical factor in shaping the learning process. Good mental health worldwide has been known to be an important prerequisite for individual health and sustainable development, especially in learning and education. Research indicates that when students are in an environment that espouses happiness and fosters positivity, they are more likely to have decreased anxiety, improved performance in school, and harmonious relationships. The Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, or CIMEO, as a regional intergovernmental organization established to promote regional cooperation in education, science, and culture in the region, stands ready to support national-level initiatives that will create enabling mechanisms that will promote children and adolescents' mental health and well-being. The passing and implementation of Republic Act 10627, otherwise known as the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013, serves as a key legislative step towards creating safe spaces for Filipino learners and protection of children from any form of violence. In line with the CIMEO 7 priority areas, specifically on priority area number 2, addressing barriers to inclusion and access to basic learning opportunities, the CIMEO Secretariat commends the Senate Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to expedite and accelerate the full implementation of Republic Act 10627. And we at the CIMEO Secretariat believes that the evidence from the Southeast Asia Primary Learning Metrics CPLM 2019 can provide further deeper insights into child's well-being. May I ask the Secretariat to present the presentation slides, please? The findings that we intend to share this morning, which have already been excellently presented by our chair, stems from a recently published secondary analysis report on child's well-being using the CPLM 2019 evidence. The report was primarily published by UNICEF EPRO in collaboration with UNICEF Innocenti as a contribution to the CPLM Secretariat, co-chaired by CIMEO Secretariat and UNICEF EPRO. So some of the findings that we will be sharing this morning will be primarily focusing on children's mental well-being and learning environment. Next slide, please. The report embraces the basic premise that well-being and learning are inherently connected. That's why we would like to further emphasize the importance of addressing the issue of bullying within the context of mental well-being. The paper takes a closer look at three key areas: mental well-being, physical well-being, and social and environmental context. For the purpose of this hearing, we would like to further focus on mental well-being. Next slide, please. Just a quick introduction about the assessment, the Southeast Asia Primary Learning Metrics, or what we call a CPLM. CPLM is a cyclical survey conducted in Southeast Asia to be able to assess the learning performance and also to report on SDG 4.1.1, which is achieving minimum basic proficiency among learners. The CPLM is essentially as a large-scale learning assessment designed to monitor student performance. And Philippines has participated in the first round of assessment in 2019. We're now preparing the second round of assessment and to check the performance and the growth of performance in 2024 for the second round of assessment. Next slide, please. Now, taking a look at the data that was published in our secondary analysis report, 46% of children reported that their parents or guardians motivated them daily to succeed in school, but only 1 in 3 children said that their parents actively engaged in daily activities that foster learning. And this is one area that we think is an opportunity for this committee to take a look at, empowering parents, not only schools, but taking a look at homes, how homes can serve as an environment to foster positivity. Parental engagement in children's learning differed by country, with children in Vietnam reporting the highest percentages in almost all forms of parental engagement. Among the countries, however, Filipino learners reported low in all forms of parental engagement, but reported highest in parental expectations. This finding, we think, is an opportunity to mobilize support at home, increase parents' engagement, not only in academic work, but also on engaging child as a whole, including child's well-being. Mental health knowledge, not only of children, but also of parents, contributes to missed opportunities for support. Next slide, please. Peer relationships are critical for children's well-being as they grow up. CPLM 2019 data show that on average, the 6 participating countries, nearly 9 out of 10 children found it easy to make friends at school, regardless of gender or rural-urban location. Children in the Philippines reported the lowest percentage under positive peer relations and attitudes towards school, while most children in Vietnam found it easy to make friends at school with 94%. Under the domain of peer relationships and positive attitudes towards school, Filipino learners reported the lowest across all the statements. However, they reported highest in giving importance to children's voices. This particular finding, we think, can be capitalized in order to empower children about children's rights and the right of children to consider bullying as an important area. Next slide, please. Available data suggests that bullying by classmates is by far the most common form of violence experienced by children in the region. On average, 35% of children in the 6 countries who participated in CPLM were enrolled in a school where bullying occurred at least once a month. Exposure to bullying varies considerably by locality and country. While 29% of children in rural schools were exposed to bullying in their schools, in urban schools, this percentage increased to 42%. Exposure to bullying at school was as high as 63% in the Philippines, as already reported by our chair and consistently aligned with other international large-scale assessments. Other forms of violence, such as vandalism, aggression, and offensive behavior, were also reported to be highest in the Philippines, relatively compared to other countries. Moreover, previous evidence suggests that all forms of bullying, including harassment, intimidation, makes them feel afraid or uncomfortable and cause them to feel despair. Moreover, being bullied is directly associated with lower quality of life and subjective well-being in children, as well as lower academic achievement. Hence, establishing the premise that if our children experience bullying, then that affects low academic performance in school. Next slide, please. So to conclude our findings, we would like to encourage and share our policy pointers from our analysis of the data. At the national system level, we ensure that there should be intersectoral collaboration at different levels to address education, social protection, and child protection simultaneously. We also encourage at the system level, dedicate resources and improve implementation framework, systems and mechanisms, as well as implementing rules and regulations of the legislation at the national level to address mental and physical well-being among children and adolescents. At the school level, we ensure the schools to be safe spaces, and for this purpose, implementers at the local level must be capacitated to fully realize the proper implementation of the law. Also, increase school collaboration to support young people as they go through the social and cognitive changes that occur during early adolescence. And finally, provide opportunities for children to learn how can they better understand and correspondingly change their behavior, manage risk, and reduce vulnerability to environmental hazards. We would like to invite, next slide please, everyone, to take a look at some of our reports published and policy briefs published in our website, which takes a look at other thematic areas and characteristics that we think are important in influencing children's learning. All of these reports are available in our website, www.cplm.org. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Earlier, I heard Dr. Hoxon mention that I don't know if Dr. Hoxon is still here, no? But
Senator, I'm still
yeah.
here.
Dr. Hoxon, you mentioned earlier that you are seeing increasing causes of suicides from bullying. Is that correct?
Yeah, one of the causes of most of our suicidal cases now, because we have also a rampant suicidal case in the school, is bullying, one of the root causes.
I just want to go back to our discussion last week, Asa Kalban. You mentioned that there were 404 students who committed suicide last school year, no, 2021, 2022, if I'm not mistaken. How many of those, did you study the causes, and how many of those were related to bullying, if there are? No?
Mr. Chair, the 404 data was based on the report as of 2021, and that reflects the data from the previous school year. So it's actually 2019 to 2020. In terms of the data and the specifics for each one, we would have to defer to the specific cases of each one, because all of these are protected under, of course, the privacy of the learner, and at the same time, possibly having medical or legal implications for each. But in the event that we will be able to provide, we hope to furnish you a copy as legally permitted.
But for analysis purposes, no, we don't want to talk about who and where. We just want to know why. No? And for analysis purposes, because we want to relate that to the topic today. No? Whether suicides, the ones that we experience in our schools, are related to bullying. No? And did you come up with any analysis on that?
Mr. Chair, we do not yet have the specifics as to the reasons for the cases of suicide, as these can actually be multifactorial in nature. possibly be an amalgamation of both stress, peer pressure, bullying, and several other socioeconomic factors.
Just submit to us na lang
Yes, sir.
a report on that, no? Because we, again, if the experts are seeing this on the ground, that more and more suicides are related to bullying, and that means there's a possibility that some of our cases are also related to
Yes, sir.
bullying, and we want to complete our analysis with that information.
Yes, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, with reference to the data that we shared a while ago, the data that was presented along with the different breakdowns are reflective of the data of the Child Protection Unit, the ones that are being reported from the school level to the Child Protection Committee, to the SDO, to the regional offices, and then to the central office, again with multiple layers. I believe a week ago, I was also in a hearing regarding the mental health bill that you are championing, and there we mentioned the much larger number of over 260,000 who were physically bullied, roughly 7,750 who are experiencing cyberbullying. We stand by these figures because that data set came from a different source, particularly our learner information system, meaning that we are now in the process of validating and at the same time marrying these two different data sets that we have. It appears that the more layers there are in terms of the reporting system, the numbers tend to be much smaller. While in contrast, the ones that have more direct reporting by the teachers through our learner information system, they're less filtered and more direct, hence possibly the larger number. And that's why we believe that the new initiative to have it online through chat, through text, through calls would allow us to get these reports more accurately in contrast to primarily relying on the hierarchical reportorial system within the school level.
So the 264 are reports coming from your teachers, in
Yes,
other words.
Learner information system mandated to be filled up by our
So
teachers.
in their learner information system, it's written there, a learner has been bullied.
They report the total number that they were able to note for bullying cases.
Okay.
Again, based on the breakdown of physically bullied, cyberbullied, gender-based bullied, and socially bullied.
And the 11,000 is
From the Child Protection Committee reports that are cascaded from the school up to the central office through the regional focals.
okay. And what is the reason for the difference? So it should be the same, diba?
Yes, sir. That's actually the area of interest and concern. Particularly, possibly, some of the cases are reported after the fact or were not processed, possibly through the teacher level because they reported straight to the learner information system, while the others were brought to the attention of the child protection committees and are continuously being consolidated by the regional offices.
Okay. Well, in any case, I think the observations of our experts are the same.
Yes, sir.
That there is massive underreporting. That's beyond the debate already. There's massive underreporting happening on at the school level. The numbers can probably be at the low of 11,600 and at the high of 264 based on your reports. But the surveys are saying it's between 40 to 65%. No? So, and that's about close to about 17 million students. No? If you do the simple multiply it by the number of students in a simple manner. No? So, but even if the 260 plus 264 is the number, that's a lot of students. Huh? That's 264 is definitely a significant number to look at. No, we want to also call on Attorney Manawag of the COCOPEA for their comments.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, to Senator Padilla and to Senator De La Rosa, and to everyone present today physically and online. Good afternoon po. Of course, we recognize the rising incidents of student violence in public and the private schools, and we are quite alarmed by this as well. And we thank you, Mr. Chair, for inviting us in this very important discussion. I would, before I share my comments and observations, I would like to clarify a manifestation or statement made earlier. DepEd orders on child protection and anti-bullying policies apply to private school as well. In fact, the law requires the private schools to establish child protection and anti-bullying committees, and we are very much compliant on this point. Private schools private schools have policies in place and are implementing it accordingly, and are even exploring or studying other possible recommendations to strengthen rules against student violence or bullying. While this may be so, Mr. Chair, I think we need to recognize and further discuss that this may be much bigger concern that is beyond the school premises. As emphasized by our expert resource persons, a lot of factors affect the behavior and the thinking of our students, especially in recent times as we reel in from the effects of the pandemic. And we have social media, which has become a great venue and the avenue of influence and ideas, which our students have ready access to, because of, among others, po, no, smartphones, as mentioned by the Honorable Senator Padilla earlier. We also have family dynamics at home. This is something that our resource persons have emphasized repeatedly. We need to emphasize that parents play a key role in child rearing. No? In fact, this is recognized by our very own constitution that child rearing is the primary right and duty of our parents. So these are some factors that affect our students, and which may be beyond the control of our schools. Therefore, we will need help in addressing and managing this issue. We need the cooperation of our parents, of other students, basically the community. And on that note, Mr. Chair, perhaps we can explore how we can help our schools so that in turn they can help our students. We can revisit and strengthen the law by involving our parents more. How can we do this? Perhaps we need to have more student interventions in and out of schools. We can focus on prevention, as repeatedly emphasized earlier, because when cases of bullying happen, interventions may be too late. Therefore, we need to promote and strengthen a positive nonviolent atmosphere in our schools. And of course, at home. We can also look into having a social media policy. Some private schools have adopted their respective social media policies when it transitioned to online learning when the pandemic hit. We also need to enable our schools to strengthen character programs for students. So strategies may differ based on the different age groups po, no? Bullying at the lower age groups may not necessarily merit disciplinary action, but more interventions to correct their behavior, compared as those students who may already be in their age of discernment. We may also need to limit or prohibit entirely selling of weapons, equipment, and materials which may be used to aid bullying, whether it be sold, in the vicinity of the schools or in the malls or even online, because as we know, online selling and buying is quite rampant, especially when the pandemic hit. We may also need to empower, Mr. Chair, and capacitate our schools, our teachers, to not be afraid to act on reported incidents. As mentioned by the Honorable Senator Padilla earlier po, no, teachers may be afraid because of possible retaliation or because of the students' connections. So perhaps we can explore expanding the coverage or protection against the bullying of teachers by the students, or protection against their against parents. Because right now, Mr. Chair, what is prohibited is only student to student bullying. So perhaps we can extend some kind of protection to our schools and teachers. On that note, Mr. Chair, perhaps we can also revisit our child protection rules as well. Please indulge me on this, Mr. Chair. Of course, it is important to protect our learners against any and all kinds of abuses. However, this has become a deterrent for some teachers to discipline students under the fear of being charged with child abuse complaints, when what it is simply is student discipline within the context of the law. And this has somehow emboldened the bullies, to continue their acts. So we need to protect our teachers and the school personnel from any retaliation, whether it be from the student, from the parents, or through their other connections of the students and parents, so that the students who are in fear of reporting the incidents of bullying can also feel safe reporting them to the teachers. And in turn, our teachers and our school personnel will also feel safe in acting upon these reports. Mr. Chair, we will continue to consult with our membership on this issue. However, again, I would like to emphasize that the schools cannot do it alone. While parents enroll their children in school, this does not necessarily mean that they have surrendered full authority over their children to the school. So we may need to revisit the law to strengthen the parents' role, the family's role, and to strengthen and empower our teachers, our schools as special parents who are in loco parentis po. After all po, no, Mr. Chair, the education of our students, their protection and discipline of our students is a collaborative effort. So we really need the cooperation or the help of the parents as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I agree with Senator Padilla. There are I remember now that we had cases in Valenzuela where the teacher was bullied, no, by students because the students were part of a gang or fraternity, no, and normally these gangs or fraternities, they have older protectors, no, or older members who are who bullies teachers, no, to protect their younger members, no. I remember now, and the teacher actually was forced to report to the police or was forced to protect himself, no. That can happen. But can I ask, attorney, how many cases of bullying have the private schools recorded? I would assume, Asa Galban, the numbers you gave me excludes private schools, no? So I wanted to ask Cocopea directly if you keep records, you keep a tab on how many bullying cases happened in the private schools, and how many private schools actually implement anti-bullying or child protection mechanisms. I know by law that the private schools need to set up their own child protection mechanisms. I don't know if DepEd have monitored this, no? But let me ask the same, Cocopea, if all of our schools have that mechanisms, no? A child protection mechanism to include anti-bullying.
Okay. Mr. Chair, as to the number or the data or this is the statistics, I do not have it on hand. However, we undertake to submit any available data. But, Mr. Chair, any incident of bullying is reported po to the DepEd. We submit reports to them as well. As to the implementation or to the policies in place, private schools po has or have policies and interventions. Usually, these are incorporated in the mental health and guidance programs of our schools so that it will be a more holistic approach. Yes, that's it, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry about the delay. I was just looking at the law. Attorney, just submit to us, if you can, no? Because there are so many private schools. How many cases of bullying have our private schools encountered?
Again, Mr. Chair, unfortunately, I do not have the data on me at the moment. We will
Yeah, just
inform-
submit to us. Just submit to us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. But ano po, our private schools po are required under the law, and in fact, DepEd is strict on schools who are non-compliant in imposing penalties. So, of course, our private schools comply in order for them to continue operating as well.
And submit to us also a list of how many schools have implemented their anti-bullying or child protection mechanisms.
Yes,
That,
Mr.
the brand might be different from with the private schools, you know. So just submit to us.
Yes,
And
Mr.
then lastly is Save the Children Philippines. Have any comments or thoughts on the topic?
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chair. Just some additional information on bullying, no, additions to what our experts have already mentioned earlier. So on the Philippines National Baseline Study on Violence Against Children, which Dr. Madrid earlier mentioned, where she said that 65% of children have experienced peer violence or bullying in their lifetime. Most of these were females at 70.5%. The study also said that the common triggers for bullying were physical appearance, status in life, and skin color. An accompanying study of the National Baseline Study called A Systematic Literature Review of the Drivers of Violence Against Children also pointed out that LGBTQ children and children with disabilities were more prone to experiencing violence. And a report actually that was produced by UNESCO in 2018 called School Related Violence and Bullying on the Basis of Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity or Expression, SOGI, no, a synthesis report, also cited some of their concerns on the bullying that is happening in our schools on the basis of SOGI. No, actually, a consultation that we did last year with children and some civil society organizations who are working on SOGI issues also raised bullying, particularly in schools, as the main issue. No? So this was the main issue that was raised, particularly by the children. So noting this existing data, no, it seems to us that bullying seems to be rooted in existing social and gender norms that accept and perpetuate violence and prejudices. So it is important, we think, for prevention, no, that there should be programs that will be implemented that should challenge such norms and that would promote nonviolent discipline or nonviolence, no, whether in the school setting or in communities or within the family setting. We think that children should have access to information on their rights as well as their responsibility to respect the rights of their peers, particularly in relation to protection and also non-discrimination. So we think children should have access to information, particularly on gender and SOGI-related concerns, perhaps through SOGI inclusive comprehensive sexuality education, and also information on children with disabilities and other excluded groups of children and how they can also support these children. We also recommend that the DepEd integrate such discussions, particularly on non-discrimination and inclusion, particularly of excluded children. And this means LGBTQ children, children with disabilities, children of IPs, and other groups of children who are usually excluded in the curriculum and awareness raising activities. Teachers and school personnel and parents should also be educated on this so that they can also properly guide their learners and their children, and to also know how to respond in a way that still upholds the best interest of children. We also think that the implementation of the DepEd's child protection policy should be also be reviewed to ensure that this contributes to preventing and addressing bullying and discrimination in schools. Lastly, on the point of restorative justice and accountability, we just would like to reiterate the importance of restorative justice and accountability in addressing cases of bullying, as stated in the UN Secretary General's report on protecting children from bullying in 2018. Uh, Restorative approaches, according to the report, are an important way of repairing harm and mending relationships among children while promoting the accountability rather than punishment of those found responsible. We think that in developing guidelines and procedures for handling cases of bullying, provisions should be clear on adhering to the principles of restorative justice and also respect for children's rights, such as the right to privacy, as alluded to by Senator Padilla earlier. And that in the event of the act of bullying will be tantamount to a commission of an offense, no punishable under the revised penal code, due consideration of the existing guidelines and procedures in handling conflict in children in conflict with the law in compliance with Republic Act 9344 as amended should be followed. So we also would like to point out and support the call for psychosocial support services to be provided to all the children involved in the bullying incident. We believe that while we do not condone bullying, but we believe that bullying has underlying reasons that need to be addressed to better help the child in changing their behavior in the long term. So we believe that parenting, particularly the promotion of positive discipline, would help in this, and the provision of psychosocial support services is very needed. So we think that further support should be provided to the child who committed the bullying to resolve the underlying causes of the behavior. And while we believe that children who bully need to understand the gravity of their actions and that they need to make amends, we are also convinced that taking a punitive approach to resolving this issue will not be to the best interest of the children involved. That's all for now, Mr. Chair, and we will submit our position paper after this. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Banyaga. I repeatedly heard earlier that family plays a very important role. No, I think throughout the conversation, and I heard this also from Dr. Karandang, Dr. Banaag, that family and the knowledge of our family in child rearing is also very important. However, families outside, just to be strict about it, no, it's outside the ambit of the DepEd. No, this is more towards the community as a whole. No, so a few years back we enacted RA 11908, or the Parent Effectiveness Service Program Act, no? To be implemented by the DSWD. No? And basically, this Parent Effectiveness Services Act is to assist parents in their duties, promote and protect children's rights, uh, positive early childhood development, and basically to reach out to the parents and to give them additional knowledge in child rearing. So we want to ask the SWD on the implementation of this law. No, this law is really meant to address the issue of parenting without prescribing what is parenting. No, but we are just going to create a mechanism to improve parent participation in their children's issues, and as well as children's education. So I want to ask the SWD on where are we in terms of RA 11908?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Cheryl of the DSWD. We just would like to share that even prior to the enactment of 11908, the Parent Effectiveness Service has already been being implemented in the communities. And specifically, it is one of the interventions that we provide for the participants of our daycare children, or our child inside the child development centers. So we ensure that the parents of these children at the child development centers undergo or are oriented on the 9 modules of parent effectiveness service. And as to the updates on the 11908, the department is currently leading the crafting of the implementing rules and regulations of this law. And we will be providing updates in the next, hopefully if there will be meetings in the future on the specific updates on this IRR crafting, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
You said earlier that the Parent Effectiveness Service Program is being implemented by the SWD now.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Even before the enactment of the law, it has been, it is being implemented at the CDCs, or our child development centers, and it is one of the parenting programs that we recommend, and it's being espoused or marketed to the local government units as one of the parenting programs that they could use in case they would uh, have to in the implementation of family welfare programs in their respective municipalities. And some of the modules of this PES is being enhanced because of the changing nuances of the family. No, so and also to address, because the modules of the PES integrates how they could promote a healthy children inside the family. So with the current trends on the growing number of obesity or obese children, this module is also being enhanced, and also the other modules are also in the process of being updated. And this is the uh, modules that will be espoused when the IRR will be completed, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
Yeah, I'm reading the law right now. No, there are a lot of good things in it. No, in terms of principles. For example, uh, keeping children safe from abuse. No, child development, challenges of parenting. No, I think this is really enacted precisely to reach out and give additional knowledge to our parents. However, there are how many? Ito ba? Probably around 20 million parents in our country, no? And I just want to know how many parents have you reached out to? The program might be good, but how do you reach out to the parents? Because DepEd has a built-in mechanism, which is the PTA, no? Which is a very good mechanism. It's already organized. It's already grouped. DSWD, if you will go and reach out to the daycare centers, these are fragmented for now. So how many parents have you already trained and reached out to? I need to know some numbers because that's important also to determine whether the PES law will be effective or not.
Yes, I agree, Mr. Chair. And as to the number po, we will just submit as to how many have we reached out. But uh, from the time it was the Early Years Act was implemented, this is or the ECCD law, even prior to the EA, PES is one of the parenting programs that we implement to children who are enrolled in the daycare centers or in the child development center. So uh, if there's the number of the parents of enrollees of the CDCs are our participants and our targets in the PES module. So as to the number, Mr. Chair, we will submit and the figures on the
Yeah, but who implements this? The SWD regional? How do you implement that? Like for example, in Valenzuela, I don't know of any pest activities there. In fact, our own parenting program in Valenzuela is designed by the local government unit ever since for many years already. Because the national agencies will have a hard time reaching out to our parents on the ground. No? So based on my experience, I don't think the SWD has the capacity to reach every single parent in the Philippines. No? Because
usually, sorry po. Usually the child development workers are the ones who are training the parents or providing the discussion of the PES modules, and they schedule it within the school year or the time that the children are enrolled in the child development centers.
But I know for a fact, I don't think it will be a significant number. No, nevertheless, just submit to us. But my point of the matter there is, why don't you ride on to the existing network of DepEd because they already have the PTA. That's the fastest way of accessing our parents. If you have the modules, just partner with the DepEd because the parents are already there. No, they're organized. All they need to do is to probably work with the DepEd to mandate the parents to join in the parent effectiveness service.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is duly noted po.
Anyways, yeah, just submit to us whatever data do you have, but I don't think it will be significant, no, because of its fragmentation. I'll go back to DepEd. Under the law, RA 10627, all elementary and secondary schools are hereby directed to adopt policies to address the existence of bullying in the respective institutions. Do we have numbers? How many schools, both private and public, have adopted policies to address bullying? I would assume all public schools meron yan. No? No, I talked to our superintendent. They have. So I would assume lahat ng public schools natin meron. Tama ba?
The goal, sir, is to ensure that all have policies because we've also instituted our rights-based education framework, and it's echoed by our child protection units and child rights education desk before becoming LRPO.
Yeah, we have data here, no? 89% of schools localize the child protection policy. No, wala lang dito eh. I'm not really sure, no? But do you have a current data on how many public schools have their own anti-bullying policies?
We currently do not have the data on hand, Mr. Chair, but we shall furnish the Senate a copy.
Yeah, that should be ready. No, that's important eh. That's very basic, and that's in compliance with your department orders, and also compliant with the law. And then, since DepEd has supervisory powers over the private schools, how many private schools have their own anti-bullying policies? Meron ba tayo niyan?
We'll include it in the report, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, just give it to us. No, it's important. We cannot leave the private schools behind. No, it's important also that our private schools are compliant with the law, because the law mandates all schools, no, both private and public schools. No, so importante that we have that. And then another question to DepEd. Well, based on our information and conversation today, my first takeaway is there's massive underreporting. No? And then number two, bullying is a huge problem in our country, and bullying affects learner performance and learner outcomes. I think that's well established already. So we cannot fix our learner performance, or we cannot improve the system of our education if we have bullying in our schools. No? And I think it goes without saying that we need to address this ASAP. So what are the recommendations that you have in the law? The law has been implemented in 2013. Do you have any recommendations to improve the law? If you see anything that is lacking or needs improvement, meron ba kayong mga recommendations?
Mr. Chair,
obviously the law has been there for 10 years, and we still have bullying. So merong problema, no? As Mayo said, it might be implementation, it might be the law. So I want to ask DepEd, if it's the law, do you have any recommendation to improve this?
thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. We'll first begin with the concern of the private schools, particularly because we have relatively limited capacity to intervene directly. So we would highly appreciate a mechanism or an enabling policy that would allow us to also ensure that we can provide cover for our learners within the private schools. Because one of our areas of engagement primarily would be the suspension of their licenses to operate should they not comply with monitoring and evaluation.
But can you
and the reporting.
cite examples of intervention to private schools? What do you have in mind?
In terms of the policy, sir, hoping that the child protection policies that we will be implementing can also be reverberated within the private schools themselves, and also a mechanism for us to somehow intervene if there are reports. Because right now, sir, we are already having our private education office, and hoping that that will be given more teeth in order for us to also oversee what's happening within our private schools.
I would take that with a lot of caution, because our public schools is already overwhelming. Eh. If we have 60% in our public schools, I don't think you will have enough time to intervene with our private schools. It's better to empower our private schools. They have their own management. Let them come up with a framework and let them implement it. I would, based on my information, I think the private schools are more responsive to bullying. Because they're smaller, they have their own governance mechanism. And I know sa amin, Senator Padilla, when I was studying in high school, if they detect some form of bullying, mabilis yung guidance counselors eh. Because they're only managing one school, not managing 63,000 schools. So my point of the matter there is, if we intend to go into an intervention program to our private school, I think that will be quite impossible because we already have our own problems with our public schools. No?
Mr. Chair, possibly in terms of policy alignment and direction. But apart from that, Mr. Chair, one of the things that we're really looking into would be additional provisions in terms of strengthening our capacity to take into account cyberbullying, because in the 2013 version, the prominence of cyberbullying may not have been as palpable, but now it is actually part of the regular conduct of our lives. So therefore, we would hopefully have more cover for cyberbullying, particularly equipping us possibly with either funding or support in terms of addressing specifically cyberbullying, because that will require possibly engagement with other government agencies that are experts in terms of ICT.
We recognize Senator Padilla.
Maraming salamat po, mahal na tagapangulo, kasi napag-usapan po yung cyberbullying. Alam niyo po, napakalaking porsyento po ngayon ng tinatamaan sa cyberbullying babae. Kawawang-kawawa po yung mga babae sapagkat dahil po dyan sa minsan kanila na-exploit po talaga ng todo. Meron pong isang pangyayari, may nagpakamatay na babae, yung shinare kasi yung mga tinatago niya ng mga videos, yung ganyan. Kawawa po talaga. At sa totoo lang po, sa usapin nito, kapag alam nyo, baka magalit sa akin yung iba dahil pag sinabi ko na sa lalaki, wala naman mawawala. No? Pero sa akin yun, huwag na po kayo magalit. Pero sa mga babae kasi, kawawa po sila talaga, kawawa. Kaya sana po, magkatulungan po tayo sa usapin nito. Proteksyonan po natin yung mga kababaihan. Marami po dyan, lumilipat pa ng paaralan, mahal na Pangulo eh. Kasi nabubuli dun sa eskwelahan nila, lumilipat ng paaralan. Ang problema, yung social media naman, yung scope niya napakalaki. Kaya yung iba napupunta po sa hindi magandang ganap. Yun lang po, maraming salamat po, mahal na Pangulo.
Thank you, Senator Padilla, for that. And definitely, yung cyberbullying has been the emerging venue of bullying, no? Because of its anonymity, its convenience. You can bully anytime, anywhere with the cell phone. Eh. So, and now, sabi nga ni Senator Padilla, 90+% of 95% of teenagers have a cell phone. No? And that created a whole new world for cyberbullying. No? So please take note of that. Go ahead. Other recommendations on the law?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we would also be open to possible integration of responsible social media and internet use within the curriculum, because that would already be part and parcel of what would be necessary for them to function in the regular world, the real world. And it would be imperative for us to somehow have a leveling in terms of their knowledge base, how to conduct themselves online, the limits, the covers of the law, because we would have to include those in their awareness reference to their rights, because of course there are particular rights that would be highlighted, freedom of speech, etc. But what are the limits of such that it would not be with respect to the rights of others, not to be bullied, not to be harmed, or experience aggression online? Those are things that we're very open to hopefully integrating and being highlighted in the policy.
Mahal na tagapangulo, napakaganda po nung sinabi ng ating ASEC sapagkat Yan din po ang concern namin sa committee po namin sa public information. Dahil totoo po talagang hindi na natin makontrol ang social media. Hindi lamang po sa usapin ng mga cancellation na yan, may mga ganyan-ganyan pa po sila, may pinagtutulungan. Talagang pagka binanatan ka, grupo pa eh. Opo, talagang kawawa talaga yung mga kabataan. Pagtulungan po natin, napakagandang madinig po, mahal na tagapangulo na kasama natin ang DepEd dito. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Dr. Bahin, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor. This is upon listening from different perspectives and discussion of how is this bullying discussion, may I suggest and recommend that the gap of manning this program to prevent bullying issues, there is a need to fill in the gap of who are these common mental health professionals such as psychiatrists, psychologists, guidance counselors, psychometrician, and other related personnel who are trained in the concept of psychosocial support. Because I think this is now the issue we're in, the proper referral system of how is this mental health and psychosocial support services must not be given proper referral. There is no proper policy directions, not only in the DepEd, even in any workplaces. So I think we have to also focus on this policy direction, because to come up with the proper treatment to those alleged abused and the abuser, proper psychological assessment plus proper diagnosis equals to proper treatment. What are those treatment I'm referring to? This is the pharmacological and the non-pharmacological approach, which is the holistic treatment. It was mentioned by some other professionals, expert. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mahal na tagapangulo, napakaganda po nung mungkahi, ano? Yun din po yung pinapakiusap natin dito sa mga social media sites. Nabigyan nila ng pansin naman, katulad po ng Facebook, mga Twitter na yan, ng mga Instagram na yan, bigyan nila ng pansin yung mga professional na point of view. Kasi ang nangyayari po, mas madami pang lumalabas na yung mga tinatawag natin bad influence, yung pang mas maraming labas sa mga social media sites. Sana po, makuha din natin, mahal na tagapangulo, yung suporta nitong mga social media giants na ito, nabigyan din nila ng tamang exposure, yung mga professional na pwedeng magbigay ng advice, na yun naman ang lagi mong makita kasi minsan magugulat ka na lang ilang beses na uulit kung sino yung pangit ang sinasabi, ilang beses na uulit sa sa scroll mo na yung mga matitino hindi mo makita. Yun po, sana po makausap din natin na mahal na tagapangulo yung mga tiga social media site.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
I would love to take this opportunity to express again support for your legislative policy with reference to mental health that would increase the number of available registered guidance counselors and other mental health professionals within the school area, including our psychometricians and psychologists. Because again, in order for us to detect and also to address these concerns, it would require a totally different skill set than what our teachers have. While we may be able to equip them with the capability to spot red flags or to be able to determine incidences, ibang profession po ang may expertise when it comes to the mental health situation and the possibly ways to address this. So that's why we'd like to thank Senator Robin Padilla also for his support.
I would like to ask the panel, the experts who are here with us, based on your research and your knowledge, what are the best practices done abroad in terms of addressing mental health? For example, in the Western countries, of course, we have to bear in mind that our country is different from theirs, no? But definitely there are some principles that we can adopt from their country to ours, no, in order to address this. So I'll open this question to the panel and anyone who can respond to share their thoughts on this. Do we have any? Yes, Miss Hannah.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Mr. Chair, thank you very much for the question. I've had the opportunity to study abroad. To take I'm one of the first Filipinos to take global mental health in London. And what I've noticed there, I've also worked with Public Health England and other nonprofits. What I've noticed is something similar that you're doing here. You're taking a multi-sectoral approach, gathering all evidence-based information, evidence based, not just in research, but also what DepEd has been providing us, all the nonprofits here have been providing us, and really having a conversation about this. When we do have our own way of perceiving bullying in our country, in our context, we are also able to sort of to borrow the words and sentiments of Senator Robin Padilla, to attack it, by what it is in our country. Because of course, cultural context plays a part. And yeah, it's from a public health perspective, at least from the mental health field. It's from a public health perspective, and in a sense, it also enjoins families, communities, so that no one organization or no one sector from the government is carrying this burden, because it is at the end of the day very very much connected, no, when our child, and also not just connected in terms of community, when our child is bullied or mentally harmed or etc etc, or the one, or our child is the one bullying, um the problem doesn't stop there. It also becomes like intergenerational, like what Dr. Hani would say. We have to nip it in the bud in terms of preventive measures. Of course, preventive measures would take, a bit longer to see the effects, but it is well worth it. So I see a lot of preventive measures happening also, especially in, yeah, from where I've had the opportunity of being exposed to. I hope this helps, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah. If you can narrow it down, let's say to an implementable program, no?
Mhm.
How do you?
Yeah.
What are the things that
Well,
we can implement right away, or things
yeah,
that we should implement in the next few years,
I
no, to
think
address
call
this?
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry to harp on it. I think we call it by its name. Like, bullying is a problem. It's pervasive. It attacks, quote unquote, our children. It harms our children. And when our children are harmed, of course, that will harm the community, the families as well. So I suppose maybe implementation in terms of a campaign, awareness campaign. We can have champions about anti-bullying, the awareness campaigns in terms of, we already know that there's a law or an act in 2013. It's parang it's caught by that act, so it supports it. So when we have that campaign, the advocacy campaign, it's being implemented on a national level, perhaps. So everyone is on board, education, maybe the SWD, etc. So it's like a singular approach to it. So I think that that can be very workable, very feasible. We can have that advocacy campaign on anti-bullying. And then, because we have to also address the stigma. There's also stigma, and with the stigma is discrimination, right? Like what Senator Padilla said also, or shared in his lived experience of bullying, no? When people approach the channels, they will be taunted, they will be bullied some more, etc. So it's more of a mind shift, really. And this might seem small, but when done on a national level, it would truly be like the mind shift, sorry, will really carry the anti-bullying act home.
Yes. Thank you, Ma'am Hannah.
Thank
I
you.
also saw someone raising their hands.
Yes, Senator, uh, this is Dr. Bernadette Madrid.
yes, Dr. Bernadette, go ahead. I
Yes.
sorry I couldn't see the screen. No.
We have a program ready to go. You know, it's the Safe Schools program. In fact, we are already starting it in Valenzuela. It's a program that is supported by both the Department of Education as well as the Department of Health. And the Department of Health also has a program on health promotion, which we want to put together with the Safe Schools program. So the meeting is being set. That Safe School program, the goals are to improve mental health outcomes, to decrease sexual violence, and with that goes the focus on teen pregnancy. You were also investigating the 10 to 14-year-olds with increasing teen pregnancy. And third, decrease bullying. So this program is targeting those three very urgent problems that your as the Senate is investigating. And we have the evidence to say that these programs that we are promoting has already been tested in and showed good results. So we now hope to implement it citywide and see whether it does all the things we're saying in terms of decreasing bullying, improving mental health outcomes, and also decreasing sexual violence, and with that, teen pregnancy. So it's ready to go. We're testing it, and we hope it could be scaled up to the rest of the country.
Dr. Bernadette, what are the features of this program? Can you give us that's maybe three important features of the program?
Yes. So there's the teacher component and there is the student component. For the teacher component, we are, of course, which we started just last Saturday, is teaching the teachers on how to do mindfulness. Okay, because that has been shown to work also with the increasing the coping mechanism of teachers with regards to stress, but they should know how to practice it before they can teach it to students. Once the teacher knows this, then we have modules that will be incorporated in health and in ESP, or the values curriculum of the students. So there are modules for grade 7 and modules for grade 8. For grade 7, the modules there is also the use of mindfulness in grade 7 and how to help your friends. We were talking about bystanders, etc. So that's in the health and in the values modules of grade 7. These are only 4 modules, 2 in health and 2 in values. And then for when they are grade 8, this is where the relationship modules comes in. You know, because when we talk about sexual violence, especially dating violence, you know, it's about how do you say no to peer pressure, you know, how do you deal with relationships with boys and girls, because boys and girls are different, you know, so, and how do you report abuse? So all of that is in this also another 4 modules in grade 8. And we have tested these modules in Manila, 2 schools in Manila, and then 1 school in Iloilo and 1 school in Antique. And the results have been really promising. So now what we're going to do in Valenzuela, this is with Ateneo de Manila University, Department of Psychology, and Friendly Care. And so what we're going to be doing in Valenzuela is to implement this now in all the public schools of Valenzuela. So we have just started the training for the teachers, and then we will be implementing the modules in the coming school year, because the teachers first have to learn the modules before they can teach it, of course. So that's, in short, that is what it is.
Thank you, Dr. Bernadette, and I'm so happy to hear that an expert like you is working with the city of Valenzuela. We've been putting a lot of focus to education and to make it as holistic as possible to include our parents. We have a running program there. It's called the Nanay Teacher Program. Because that's definitely what we also found out on the ground, that parents play a very big role in the education of their children, as well as in the growth and development of their children. And that fundamental principle, actually, to my surprise, sometimes is not as pronounced in the minds of our parents. So the intention there is to keep on engaging our parents, no? Keep on giving them knowledge in order to be good parents, no? So
Yes, yes, Senator. For the nanay teachers in Valenzuela, an evidence-based parenting program has also been implemented, which is the MAPA, which is the Masayang Pamilya Filipino program. And the results also, the trial, the research done in Valenzuela had shown also excellent results in decreasing violence against children. And so these two programs, the Safe Schools and the parenting programs, we feel would really go a long way in decreasing violence against children, including bullying, in the age group that we are targeting. And we have as I said, these are all evidence-based. There is research to back them up. DepEd was involved in the Safe Schools research, and the Department of Health is also very much interested to be working with DepEd on the Safe Schools for the mental health outcomes.
thank you, Dr. Madrid. We call on Mr. Subong. I think his hands. Dr. Subong, is your hands raised?
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. I just like to share my experience if you're asking ano po yung pwedeng magagawa. I've been a Fulbright Distinguished Awards for International Teacher recipient, and I was able to be in both urban school in the US and a school in suburbs. Magkaiba talaga yung situation. But then what I observe is that they have systems in place. They are using, for example, in Pennsylvania, they are using the tiered systems of support, or the PBIS. It's called in different names. No, they have a framework wherein everyone is involved. Involved yung teachers, involved yung administration, involved yung student support services personnel. Another thing that I've observed is that compared to our current system, as mentioned by our dear Secretary of Education, VP Sara, na yung curriculum, it seems congested. Doon po, I could see that students may time po na maglaro. So there's co-curricular and extracurricular activities. They are encouraged to play. They're encouraged to explore, which right now it seems missing, even compared to my time. No, na we have time for that. No. Another thing is, as part of the systems in place, is they have student support services. Kahit kulang, pero they shared services. They have, for example, in a school district or equivalent here, school division, they hire psychologists, they hire counselors. Pag kulang, they share these services. No? And another thing also is, yung teachers are quick to respond, no, when it comes to bullying, even just a simple horse playing, no. Mabilis po yung teachers to say stop it, or to ask the students not to do it. Okay? So siguro I would like also to add no sa proposition ng ating resource person from the COCOPEA, no, also for the protection of our teachers, and I hope na ma-discuss din po ito sa ating EDCOM, which kayo po nagli-lead, to have these systems in place, because it's very important na hindi lang natin tingnan sa area of parents but also sa area din ng nag-implement sa teachers and even the systems within our education department. So I would like to share that information po. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. Thank you. We also, Dr. Jan Levado is raising her hands.
Yes, Senator. Good afternoon, sir. So, just in addition to the inputs from Dr. Madrid, sir, the Department of Health, on top of the Healthy Learning Institutions program, we're also pilot testing the suicide prevention in schools. So basically, it's really about teaching and non-teaching cadre in the schools po for skills building pertaining to mental health. So we have interventions in the modules like self-care exercises, healthy responses, for example, interventions towards teaching and non-teaching staff, how to have difficult conversations with students, how to communicate verbal and non-verbal communications, feedback, and suicide communication and safety planning. We also added in the modules po, knowing your Generation Z. So parang it's really about teaching our DepEd personnel how to recognize all these things pertaining to mental health. So we're currently pilot testing it, sir. So we started with the Cordillera Administrative Region's DepEd personnel. We're hoping that we can also pilot it out in other regions. So we're already done with that. The second intervention po that we're currently also doing right now is that together with the USAID, we have developed the Lusog Isip app. It's actually parang a self-screening for mental health conditions. So there are a lot of parang apps right now. I think this is the first app in the Philippines for mental health screening. So you can just visit the app and you can check the questions and screen if you're really at risk for mental health problems. Siguro, sir, the third and last perspective perhaps that we can put into this conversation is that I think it's also high time for us to consider that for the kids that are bullied, we should also see the profile of the students. So for example, perhaps may mga estudyante po talaga tayo na may learning disability, for example, or autism that is really unapparent. So in the Department of Education, ang na-enrolled lang talaga sa special education are those with apparent disabilities. And we know that in the Philippines, around more than 150,000 or 160,000 Filipinos have autism and 10% lang talaga yung diagnosed. So this is also, I think, one part that we should look into. Baka naman yung mga bata that we're seeing has actual learning disabilities that we can't recognize, or the teachers can't recognize as well. So that's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
Thank you, Dr. Levado. I just want to share with everyone. No, we were doing our research, and UNESCO conducted this international conference on school bullying. I think this was in partnership with the Ministry of Education in France, and just goes to show how bullying is an international issue. No, it's not confined to the Philippines. It's not confined to one school. It's not confined to one barangay, but it's an international phenomenon. No, and this is actually um, this actually goes to show, no, that bullying is a serious matter that we need to address, no. And even though these countries have already addressed bullying in their own respective jurisdiction, as evidenced by the low prevalence, they still meet up, no. And if you read this article, it's not only practitioners in the medical field, but scientists who study statistics and data. And in page 3, they itemized here the 9 components of the whole education approach to prevent and address bullying and cyberbullying. And they call it whole education approach because based on their study and evidence, that it should be addressed on a system level, no? Meaning the whole schools, the whole education system should address bullying and cyberbullying, no? So, and if you see the components, in fact, the components are the things that we are discussing today, no? Exactly what we are discussing today. But of course, the key here is implementation, no? At the end of the day is how you implement. But one of the items here that I want to emphasize, it's the bottom left, no, yung may mata. Evidence, monitoring of school bullying and evaluation responses. Basically, this is gathering data, and this is what we lack, no. Right now, we don't know. We're blind in terms of bullying. The survey is saying 40 to 65%, but on the ground, we're blind. No, we don't know if we are addressing bullying. First, we don't know how many talaga, no, how many are really being bullied at the school level. How many students are experiencing bullying, and then how are we responding, and if our response is effective or not. No, we don't have that data to study. No, and that leads me to some of my takeaways today. That bullying is also part of mental health. No, and we extensively discussed that last week. And when we all know that we have a some shortages when it comes to mental health. For example, shortage in talent, shortage in program, and we're addressing that through that law. Another takeaway today, parent engagement is also very important, no? And that's why we have that law, the Parent Effectiveness Service law, no, that is not being rolled out completely. We also need to make sure that the hotline and avenues to connect to government is also pronounced. Apparently, it's not as popular as we want, no? And that's why there's massive underreporting. And the other one I got from Dr. Madrid, that there are existing programs that we can already use, no? And I urge DepEd to look at that. These are evidence-based programs being implemented by the private sector. Let's just scale it up, not reinvent the wheel. Dr. Madrid is a Magsaysay awardee, you know, and her programs are not just off the shelf programs. These are well-designed, well-researched programs. And my takeaway here is let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's pick on the low-hanging fruit so we can address this bullying right away. No? So those are my key takeaways today. But just goes to show, no? I just want to point out that bullying is an international phenomenon that needs to be addressed. No? And if ulitin ko lang itong slide ng PISA because na-shock ako dito, no? And ito. No, that Philippines is the #1 among 70 plus countries in terms of bullying. No, and it's something that is really bothering me uh, ever since I saw this slide, no, um, uh, let's study what Korea is doing. No, let's study what Chinese Taipei is doing. These are Asian countries. They must be doing something correct, or they're probably implementing something that we are not implementing. No, nasa ano tayo, nasa pinakadulo tayo ng spectrum eh. No? So this is a challenge to all of us. No, part of the recommendation nga in that international is strong political leadership. We provide that, but we need to address this incidents of bullying in our country. No, and that's why this is the my call on DepEd is to submit to us your recommendations on how to improve, how to update the law. We're discussing the mental health law last week. We will already move into the, we're already in the technical working group. But we still need more analysis from DepEd and more recommendations. No, either recommendations to improve the existing anti-bullying law or recommendations to further improve the mental health law that we are talking about to address bullying. No, so because you guys are the ones implementing it on the ground, we need feedback from you on how to improve this. And of course, from our other stakeholders, if you have other recommendations how to improve the law, feel free to send it to us through a position paper because we need to address this. This is, for me, a unacceptable phenomena that we are number one, no, in the whole world in terms of bullying. No, and people think that if you ask tourists, ang bait-bait ng mga Pinoy, you know, that we're known for being friendly, we're known for being caring, we are known for being open to tourists because we can speak English and we have that very caring manner, but we're not caring enough for our children. No, we're not doing enough for our children. Our schools are unsafe. Our children feel unsafe. And we need to do more. No? Hopefully, in the next round of PISA, this will not be the same slide. No. Any last words from our stakeholders from DepEd? We have already exhausted almost all of the issues surrounding bullying. What we will do is we will review the data today, review the takeaways. We'll recommend on our own what to improve in the anti-bullying law, and we will make sure that this is related to the mental health law that we are discussing, so it will be harmonious. No? But we welcome your suggestions, especially from our panel of experts. No? In mag-raise hands pa. Yes, to Mr. Ibanez of Semeo.
Mr. Chair, just quickly on at the regional level, we would encourage the department to take a look at our neighbors, especially in Vietnam, because in all metrics, the standards that we have are looking at, they're really performing above and beyond the region. Especially in terms of bullying, they've performed better in all engagements, especially on parental engagement. One practice that Vietnam is doing right now is teaching parents non-violent communication and discipline, which is one thing that was already brought out during our discussion. Also, Vietnam is doing is championing digital literacy. Incorporated into that framework the idea that children should be aware in using social media properly and ethically. So Vietnam is really on board in terms of digital transformation in the region, and I hope that other countries like the Philippines can also copy and model those kinds of practices and strategies. So we at CMEO, we will be doing the CPLM in the second round of assessment next year. And the 2019 metric is from the pre-pandemic context. So we would take a look at the impact of COVID-19 pandemic next year. So hopefully we can get back to the committee and report again what the data tells us. Thank you.
Thank you for Sumeo, and thank you to Secretary Briones for her willingness to share with us your research and your data and also your findings, especially looking at it from a regional lens. No? So thank you very much for that. So I don't hear anyone I don't hear anyone who is interested in sharing their thoughts anymore, unless there are any more comments or any more suggestions. If not, please submit to us your position paper on this matter. We really need to address this ASAP, and I'm very happy to hear Dr. Madrid has, on her own, has been rolling out programs that are geared towards making our schools safe, empowering our teachers and our students. And these are the low-hanging fruits that we can tap into. No? And that's why I tell DepEd, let's not look so far. No? There are people who have already done their homework in terms of addressing bullying. So let's look at that. But we're the next step on this issue is to come up with a list of recommendations and a list of items that we can improve on the law. No, taking into consideration that there is a mental health law that's being discussed, and there's a parent effectiveness service law that is being implemented. So we're all going to make it harmonious. No? So with that, again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to our experts who joined us today, and we'll await your position paper on the matter. Maraming salamat po. This hearing is hereby adjourned.
Down na